So at what point did you realize you wanted to be a Navy SEAL and pursue?
Probably around sophomore, junior high school.
Was it like a particular event?
No, well, let's see, how did it... I was just always into the military. Grew up playing with G.I. Joes and carbon spears and shit like that out in the woods. But to be and then I lost sight of it. But to be honest, I was just a fucking turd, in high school. I didn't really have anything going for me.
No direction?
And other than booze and trying to get some chicks, which I wasn't very successful with. And,
who is in high school?
Right?
Right. Everybody's lying,
yeah. And my dad was, we just butted heads, and one day fucking kicked my ass around and as he, and said, I'm not paying for your fucking school. I'm not doing, basically like, you're on your own, like, fuck you. And I was like, cool. I already joined the Navy anyways, so, well, I didn't already join, but I was like, yeah, I'm already talking to a recruiter anyways. I'm going to be a SEAL. So
and how did he respond to that?
Totally, like, changed everything. It was like, you did what? And
proud or concerned or nervous or both?
Yeah, probably all three.
And what year was this?
Did I join or?
Yeah, that you did this when you told your dad, this is what I'm going to do. I guess what I'm trying to
probably like
put in my mind what was going on in the world at the time as a parent,
pre 9/11. So probably like 99, 2000.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, shit was getting
yeah.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what the hell was going on. I was in high school.
Sure. Yeah.
The George Bush election. But, yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah, for me, probably 1955, 1956, I don't know what year, probably 8 or 9 maybe, I saw my first outlaw biker. I was in San Fernando Valley, standing on the corner with my dad. He's talking to this Italian restaurant. He has a restaurant as well. My dad was in the restaurant business, and they're discussing the restaurant business, and I'm just a goofy kid, and I hear this noise coming, and I look up the street, and you see this guy coming, and he gets to the stop sign, stops, and he does a series of things. He pushes his glasses up on his head, and he's like messing with something to his left side over here, which I've learned later it's a jockey shifter, it's a hand shifter. And I hear this distinctive rattling, and what they are is, I've learned later, it's the bearings in the clutch basket. It's, he's engaged the clutch and it's spinning. Yeah. It's not engaged, it's spinning. And these ball bearings are making this whirling sound that's very distinct. They don't do it anymore because, it's a whole different motorcycle nowadays. But so I'm just watching this guy. He's got a Levi vest cut off, and everybody's tripping on this guy. And, he's not paying attention to anybody. And the light changes, he dumps it in gear, pops his glasses down, and he just shoots across the intersection. And I'm like, what the hell was that, And I look at the Italian guy, and he looks at me, and he goes, "That's your America." And he spit on the ground.
Damn.
And I thought to myself, that's my America. And, metaphorically, I jumped on the back of that bike. It was another 10 years. I didn't get a bike till 1966 because I was a kid.
Yeah.
But that pushed me into the direction I wanted to go. It was just so profound and so... it was just something else, man.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's just like that one event for me probably changed my life.
Yeah.
If we hadn't gone down to L.A. that day and saw that guy,
Who knows how it would have all turned out.
Maybe I'd been a cop.
That would have been a change of events. But I got a hot question for you, actually.
Okay.
There are a handful of patches on biker vests that everyone recognizes, and a few that people whisper about because they're considered notorious. For someone who doesn't know the culture, can you break down what the main patches mean, what they represent inside the club, and generally how a guy earns the right to wear each one?
Well, the Hell's Angel patch, the top rocker, the center patch, which is called the Death Head. Then you have your MC motorcycle club patch below that. And then you have a bottom rocker that identifies what state you're from or what area you're claiming to basically kind of control. And, the big dogs run the state rockers, and, the smaller, they're subservient to the bigger clubs. They might have, Topanga Canyon or a town in Des Moines or whatever. But each club is pretty much structured like the Outlaws. They have a piston. Have you ever seen the Outlaw patch? It's a piston double. It's a skull with two cross pistons. Almost kind of looks like it could be mistaken for a pirate type patch. I mean, it's a really distinctive, very iconic, like the Death Head itself. And they were kind of like the number two in the world of outlaw bike clubs. And on the front, you've got these various patches that some of them are very esoteric and nobody knows what they mean. Certainly over the years, things are getting out. People become informants and they debrief and they tell the police, well, that's what this means. And that's what that means. But the problem is with the gentlemen doing that, they embellish sometimes. They have their own agenda.
No way.
Yeah,
Human beings
exactly.
embellishing.
They have their own agenda. So, they want to seem informed. They want to engage these cops because they're trying to extract themselves from a problem. So a patch that, and I'm going to use this, I'm leading up to something. The Filthy Few is, in the outlaw bike world, morphed into an urban legend. And what it means is you have killed on the behest of the club, if you will.
Okay.
And that entitles you to wear a Filthy Few patch.
Would that be one of the highest patches?
Yeah. That, and there's another patch called the De Quello patch. This is Hell's Angel stuff I'm speaking of. They have the De Quello patch, which means you're willing to fight law enforcement for what you believe in. Like maybe a cop will say, and it happens, they'll go, take that patch off. We don't allow that patch in the town. And then, of course, the exchange starts. Well, I'm not taking it off. Oh, you're going to take it off. And then next thing you know, they're fighting. If somebody did that and he physically engaged a cop in combat, hand-to-hand combat or whatever you want to call it, he would have the right to wear the De Quello patch. The Filthy Few started out with the first to arrive and the last to leave. They were like a crew of guys that their whole life was just about partying, riding motorcycles, partying. They were the first guys to come, the last guys to leave. And they started calling themselves the Filthy Few, and they were from the Bay Area, San Francisco, all the area up in that Northern California. The Southern California guys, in response to the Filthy Few, started an organization themselves called the Raggedy Wranglers. And that was the competition between the two. Now, I recently, I work as
competition between
the clubs with the inner conflict.
No shit.
It's,
so the Hells Angels North Cal, Hells Angels South Cal, they fucking don't like each other.
Well, not that they don't like each other. It's like
a healthy rivalry.
Yeah. Hey, you want to be a real Hells Angel? You ought to come up here with us.
So it's like East Coast, West Coast SEAL teams.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's where I was heading with this.
We'll fight you, but if it comes down to it, we'll also fight together.
Yeah, we'll fight each other. And
got your back.
When the chips are down, I'm right there with you, brother. I'm going down with you, even though I may have kicked you a couple of weeks ago in that bar fight. But so I work as an expert witness sometimes for the defense, which is kind of something new. In the past, the prosecution always brought in their gang expert, and then he goes through, for 4 years I did this, and I was undercover here, and I did that. They bring me in there, and I tell the judge, well, Your Honor, I was in the Hells Angels for 40 years. Prior to that, I was an independent in the outlaw bike world for 10 years, and then the judge says, okay, he's an expert, and they allow you to testify. There's a big controversy in law enforcement. They say that anybody with the Filthy Few patch on has killed somebody at the behest of the club. And I got a big argument with the prosecutor, and the judge finally kind of settled the thing. I explained to the jury, like I just did to you, that initially it was guys first to come, the last to leave, and it sort of morphed into this urban legend that if you weren't a filthy few patch, you killed somebody. The problem with that theory, and you know what? I'm sure some of the guys wearing the filthy few patch, have committed crimes up, to murder. I don't know. I'm not speaking for everybody. But my point was, everybody in the Hells Angels now wears a filthy few patch. I mean, you go somewhere and you see 20 guys in a charter with a filthy few patch on, or talking in a circle. And my argument was, where are the bodies? I mean, these people are getting these patches because you're professing that they killed somebody. Well, where's the indictments? Where's the bodies? Where's the cases? So it's become an urban legend or not. I told the jury at the end, I said, who am I to interrupt an urban legend? Let it be what it's going to be. You have to, as a juror, you're going to have to determine whether he did that crime or not whether he's wearing a particular patch or not. That's what it really boils down to. Of course, I got accused of perjury, and we're going to indict you. You're lying under oath. I said, well, prove it.
So are you saying they may have flooded the club with the patch?
Yes.
Would they do that to?
Not intentionally.
They would not do it intentionally. They wouldn't do it as like a type of a psyop to other clubs that makes
kind of like, hey, I'm willing to do this,
or I've done it.
Yeah, or have done it, and that's for you to determine by how I conduct myself. I'm sure, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody in the military, but I'm sure you run across somebody else that's a SEAL, you're going to size them up. You want to make sure, is this guy going to have my back? Is this guy, did he take his training seriously? And how committed is he? I would assume most SEALs are committed 100%. But, you would have to tell me yes or no, George.
I mean, most of them.
Yeah.
There's always one turd in the punch bowl, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so. I understand completely. It's always the guy when you got a new guy come around the club. In the beginning, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm embracing this guy and, just so happy to see him. 10 years down the road, I'm thinking, is this guy going to flip?
Yeah.
What's he made of? What kind of metal is he really? How do we test this guy to find out he's going to hold up?
What is, if you don't want to name names, I get it, but what is one of the most rarest patches that nobody knows about?
Well,
and
what they had the Bastard Brigade. Was I get people write me all the time. What is the Bastard Brigade? This is a small group of individuals. I mean, I guess you could describe it as a small cartel within the organization. And really, maybe only those guys know what it is, what it's about, and what it entails to become one of them. I know that you go back east, you got a group of guys that call themselves Bad Company. I mean, guys back east there's some badasses back there. If you look at your history with the New York guys, the Cleveland guys, the Lowell guys. I mean, look at the history of Cleveland. I mean, these guys worked for Danny Green. Are you familiar with Danny Green?
No.
Danny Green was an Irish mobster in the 70s.
Oh, yeah. They made a movie about that.
Yeah. Kill the Irishman.
Yeah, the Teamsters.
Yeah.
He was up against the Teamsters.
The Teamsters, right? And the mob. Well, the Hells Angels worked for the Italians and they worked for Danny Green. And they worked both sides of the fence, because they didn't support Danny Green, or they didn't support the Italians as an organization, but people within the organization were hiring out. Danny Green would say, I can't get in this area. I need somebody to do something. And, somebody take the job.
Right on.
Did they create little patches? Sure they did. And they were distinctive to that specific group of guys, perhaps specific acts. You know, in the early days, those patches initially were, and I'm sure you're aware of this. Everybody would wear wings, and they had to do with sexual acts, and the red wings, the black wings, the broken wings, whatever they may be. We had an individual in the club called Terry the Tramp. He had a whole array of wings. And if you ever see Hell's Angels '69?
Yes.
Yeah, Terry was in that. He was the kind of stole the show. He was the guy with the big gauntlets and long hair and red motorcycle. That movie created a conflict between him and Sonny.
No shit.
Because he seemed to be getting a lot more attention than Sonny wanted him to get.
If you've listened to this show for a while, you know I'm a big believer in functional mushrooms and adaptogens. So Mudwater made sense to me right away because it gives you that morning ritual without the full caffeine hit. Their original blend is made with cacao, chai, turmeric, and functional mushrooms. It's got about 1/7 the caffeine of coffee, so you get focus and energy without feeling jittery or dealing with that crash later. And what I like about the starter kit is it actually gives you everything you need to start the routine. You get a full-size tin of your chosen blend, plus a rechargeable frother, free gifts, and free shipping. The OG blend is where a lot of people start because it has that chai and chocolate flavor, but they also have coffee, matcha, and turmeric blends if you want something different. For me, Mudwater is just a cleaner way to start the morning. It feels steady, it tastes good, and it fits right into the kind of routine I already want to be building. Ready to make the switch to cleaner energy? Go to mudwater.com/SRS and grab the starter kit. Use code SRS and you'll get 43% off. The frother alone is worth it. That's right. Up to 43% off with code SRS at mudwtr.com. After your purchase, they'll ask how you found them. Please show your support and let them know we sent you. Pick up your phone. Look at it. Count the number of companies you've never heard of that know where you slept last night. Nobody can, and that's the point. Apps you're not even using are calling out to servers all day and all night, reporting where you go, what you look at, and what you buy. Glacier's Secure DNS cuts those calls off before they connect. Not after, before. It's the same grade of protection people with clearances carry, built by the guys who used to build it for them. And you don't manage it. Open the app once, hit the button, close it. Glacier. Download it today on the App Store. And remember, privacy isn't paranoia, it's protection. What would happen if somebody was wearing patches or a color that they didn't earn? What would happen?
I would say anything from a stern lecture to, a hole in the desert,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it just depends on the circumstances. But I think maybe this is something you could relate to. I think a lot of it has to do with how people explain themselves or conduct themselves while they're explaining the situation. You start, and I'll use the word interrogation. You start sounding somebody about something. He's going to drive how the end process is, because if you had an intention to hurt this guy, you wouldn't be talking to him. Somebody'd walk up behind him and shoot him in the head or something. But if you're negotiating with somebody, it's because you're trying to avoid something or you're trying to achieve something. And if you're talking, figure as long as you're talking, you're not fighting.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you guys are looking for ownership, somebody that owns their fucking shit.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And, is it still that way? I don't know. I left the club in 2011. I got disillusioned. I was disappointed in the direction things were heading. I walked into that world in, 1966, immediately started running around with the question marks. We're which were endorsed as a 1% club by the Hells Angels, the Saint Slaves again. These are the guys I ran around with. Ultimately met the Hells Angels up on Kern River, met a guy named Old Man John. This is in the mid 70s, early 70s. He was already old back then. He was an old man, but former Navy. I don't know if he was a Seabee or Navy. He had been on in the Pacific Theater. I don't know specifically where, but like a lot of the guys, you're familiar with how the club started. They were from returning vets from the European and Pacific theaters.
World War II, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
right
get
up.
into that in a minute.
Okay.
Let me give you an introduction here.
All right.
George Christie became a full-patched Hells Angel in the Los Angeles Charter in 1976, and 6 months later became president of that charter before founding the Ventura Charter in 1978. Your tenure as president was longest in club's history, spanning 7 U.S. presidential terms, beginning with Gerald Ford and ending with Barack Obama. Survived RICO indictments, ATF stings, internal rats, and murder contracts, and time in prison. Since you've resigned in 2011, you've written books, starred in documentaries, and consulted on other projects. You launched Felony Prison Consultants and work with defense attorneys to analyze their cases and prepare strong legal defenses. You work with defendants to assist them in coming to terms with their situation and prepare for the complexities of court as well as protocol of prison life. I forgot to mention you're also a U.S. Marine, and so
I had 8 years with the Department of Defense too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do have that in the outline. Real quick though, just one. What is the? I know what it is, but it may be diluted from my days of research. What does a 1%er mean?
Okay, when these small groups of veterans started teaming up together, you had the Pissed Off Bastards, you had the Galloping Goose, you had the Yellow Jackets, the Booze Fighters, 13 Rebels. You had these small.
The Booze Fighters was one of the original clubs.
They were at Hollister, and I use Hollister, whether fairly or unfairly, as a starting point for the West Coast birth of the outlaw biker. They went to Hollister in 1948. There were hill climbs and races, and I don't know what else they had going there. They went up there. In addition, the San Francisco Chronicle got wind of this new phenomena of these bike clubs. They sent a reporter to Hollister. A reporter went there. They brought a camera guy. They were snapping shots. They were interviewing people. And they came back and wrote this, what became a salacious story about how these marauding veterans rode into the small town of Hollister and were raping and pillaging. They took over the town. And the reporter asked the American Motorcycle Association, so what's with these rowdy bikers? And they said, their actual comment was, it's only 1% that ruin it for us wholesome riders. And these guys, these club guys, now I'm just, a baby or a little kid then, they get this term 1%er and they embrace it and they become the 1% that ruin it for the wholesome riders.
Gotcha. And
they're still continuing to ruin it to this day. So that's how that started. And they didn't start wearing the badges. And I have a challenge coin I want to give you along with my book. And you'll look on the front of that.
1%er.
1%er. And then, you see the, that's me standing in front of the clubhouse.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I figured you'd appreciate it, you'd understand it,
I get it.
And
Cool.
I traced the challenge coin back to the Roman legions.
They go back that
They
far?
go back to the Roman legions. They carry anybody that did a specific bravery in a battle or fought in a really hard fought battle. They would give them a challenge coin that was also valuable. It had a monetary value, but in addition to that, it identified you secretly as being part of a legion.
No shit.
'Cause and if you got caught carrying it and you weren't part of the legion, you can imagine back then what the consequences would be.
Oh yeah.
So maybe things haven't changed that much, But anyways, so everybody embraced that title in the late 50s, early 60s. Nobody seems to know for sure. I initially thought they started doing it right away, and then I myself, as I'm creating this historical record of all this outlaw lifestyle, I find out that it didn't really happen with the one percenter badges till the late 50s, early 60s. And, there used to be one percenter meetings, or on the California West Coast, you had the Hells Angels in the Bay Area. In Monterey, you had a club called the Losers. And in Ventura County, you had a club called the Question Marks. And then in San Fernando Valley, you had a club called the Saint and Slaves. And then the Galloping Goose and the Booze Fighters, these guys were all part of this one percenter coalition. And, they have meetings, but, they really were reasons to get together and party.
Yeah.
They weren't really meetings, it'd be, anybody got any business? No, let's drink, but they became.
It's interesting. I thought about doing this.
Did you really?
I did.
And when, at what point in your life?
I was contracting for the agency.
Yeah.
And I left the SEAL teams, tried to do some real estate stuff. I fucking hated it. I could not stand being with civilians at the time. And and I was getting in fights all the time. It was just all I did was drink and fight.
Right.
And then so that's where I kind of started to think about it, because I just could not fit in. And
did you hang around anybody or
nope?
Interact? With
I bought. Well,
and where were you from?
I didn't have any money. So,
you didn't need any money, man. So
to get a bike.
Where were you at
St.
geographically?
Louis. Oh well, St. Louis at that time.
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
So that probably would have been perhaps the El Fisteros or the Outlaws or.
Well, I was just reading, and then I wound up contracting for CIA, and it turns out there was a bunch of guys that I was contracting with that had all thought about the same thing, and
it kind of goes along with the.
Yeah, and so in my readings, in my research, I realized it sounded like everybody was coming back from World War II. Nobody could fit in, so media related to it, and yeah, that's so I was drawn to it. I was like, oh, so this is how all these places started,
right?
And then talking to other friends that were also looking into it. It kind of sounded like maybe the clubs had been diluted a lot by this point. There probably weren't very many veterans.
What year is this, you think?
Probably about the time you were leaving,
okay.
2011.
Yeah.
And then I had heard, one of them told me that they were like, yeah, I wanted to do it because I fucking love motorcycles. And he goes, I went to a bike shop where a bunch of them were working, and I realized they were all stealing each other's bikes. He was like, I just think it's stupid that a motorcycle enthusiast would steal another man's fucking bike.
Yeah, in fact, we had a moratorium in Ventura. We ruled, as Hells Angels Ventura, we ruled Ventura with an iron hand. And that was one of the things that was not allowed in that county, or
really?
Not the county so much, but the town. It was hard to control the whole county, but in the city of Ventura, there was no bike thieving at all. Nobody even locked their bike. In fact, if you came to our bar and locked your bike, we would ask you to unlock it because we took it as an insult. I go,
oh, wow.
I go, man, are you inferring that we're a bunch of bike thieves? I go, because you need to unlock it. And if you don't want to unlock it, I understand that, but you got to leave. You got to unlock it and you got to leave. And we're not going to warn you again. So make your choice. What do you want to do? And, most of the people would always unlock it and go, well, I didn't know, and whatnot. And, the police knew that was the policy in town. We had one guy got caught stealing bikes, and he spent the weekend in the clubhouse. It was funny. The cops knew he was in there.
Oh.
The word spread all over the street, and the sergeant, this guy I've known for since 1978. Pulled up, and they said, "Hey, he's out there, man." So I went out there. I go, "What's up?" And he goes, "I know you got the guy in there." He goes, "Scare the shit out of him, but don't hurt him." He says, "We don't want to do no reports, man." And, we kept him in there all weekend, made him assemble the bike. He had taken the bike apart. We made him reassemble the bike. And then we made him go pick dog shit up in the backyard. We had 2 big Rottweilers.
Nice.
That didn't like anybody.
Nice.
So we told him, go out there and we didn't even cage the dog. We're not caging him up, man. You can just go out there and deal with the dogs. And, they were just like watching his ass. But the word spread fast. And, there no more bike thefts.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Well, we got a couple things to crank out here real quick before we get too in the weeds.
All right.
So one, I have a Patreon account. It's a subscription account.
Okay.
And they're the reason that I get to sit here with you today. So I offer them the opportunity to ask every guest a question. This is from Brian. In hindsight, would you have prioritized keeping the DoD career that you had after military service rather than pursuing life as a Hell's Angel? Follow on. What obstacles did you encounter when transitioning from military service to the civilian world, and how did you address them?
So is that 2-part question?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't like taking orders from people I didn't respect. That was a real problem for me. And I wound up, I was in a Marine Reserve unit, and I was in it for over 4 years. And 0311 was a rifle unit. We had a new gunnery sergeant come, and he was very disrespectful. And he had, old school guy, Now, I felt the company was tight, but we were a reserve unit, so people were living their civilian life and blending the military life together. And the platoon I happened to be in, man, we were taking psychedelics and, we were getting high out, smoking pot. And he knew that. He thought he was going to come there and change everything. And him and I wound up getting in a beef. And we were on a rifle range. And I was kind of fucking around. I didn't think he'd do anything. But we were, standing, firing, and told there was 4 or 5 guys between us. He was down the range talking shit to me, like he always did. He just rode me. And so I told everybody to get off the range, and I put my rifle to my side, and I told him, draw. And he ran off the range, went and ratted me out, got court-martialed. At the court-martial, it kind of drifted into perhaps you'd fit in better working by yourself. And I wound up getting I went out under a general discharge under honorable conditions, wound up going to work for the Department of Defense at Point Magoo. I was a communication troubleshooter. There was a submarine surveillance. This is the middle of the Cold War with the Russians in the late 70s. Took care of the RCA building. It was a submarine surveillance system. They had one on Santa Cruz Island. It's all declassified now. They had one on Santa Cruz Island. Then they had one on an island in Northern California. And they watched all the Russian subs, didn't let them get too close. Mm-hmm. And that was my job. And they found out I was leader of the Los Angeles Hells Angels. Yeah. So I got called in the office.
I'll bet you did.
And they said, "Look, we need to ask you something. We know this rumor's been floating around. We thought it was a joke, but are you really leader of the Los Angeles Hells Angels?" And I said, "I am." They just looked at me and, my boss was a cool dude, and he just goes, "Jesus Christ, Christie." And he goes, "We're going to pull your security clearance. You can't be with those guys and be with us." And he said, "You got to make a choice." And I made my choice. I walked away, Do I reflect back sometimes now? When when I walked away from the club and everybody turned their back on me after 40 years of service, I had my feelings hurt. I was mad. And, I look at you, I look around this room, I look at the things that were presented to you, and, you guys, military guys, you guys risk your ass every day. Now, I used to risk my ass every day too, but it was for ourselves. It wasn't for our country. The Hells Angels are a self-serving organization, but it was a fun-loving organization at one time. At least I thought it was. It was a live and let live world. But I look around the room here. I look at you. I think, I wonder what would have happened. But it's a hypothetical question, and you never get a concrete answer for it. What rank would I have made? What would I have accomplished? I have a great story. When did the SEALs start? They started in 65, 66?
Oh man, I'm gonna get killed for not knowing this. But
Okay, I'm gonna tell you. I think that's about when, and I'll tell you why. I had got hit in the head. I got in a fight with another Marine, and he clipped me with his rifle. Went to sick call, had my head stitched. Wouldn't tell him what happened. Told him I hit my head on the rack, which really upped my bar with all of the old school Marine sergeants, And there was a guy in there that had broke his shoulder and collarbone. He was trying out for something new, and he said he was going to be a Navy SEAL.
Right.
And he had jumped out of a plane, and did you guys jump? Yeah, and he had hit his shoulder when he landed. He didn't land right, and he couldn't wait to get back to where they took him out. And I don't know the structure, how it works. You listen to a guy like that, and you think, wow. Now another story is when I'm in the reserve unit. I get activated when I challenge that gunnery sergeant. They've got me down at Camp Pendleton, and I'm walking. I can't remember. You know how the little camp? You've been at Camp Pendleton. Mm-hmm. All the they got all these little satellite camps everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm walking down the road, and across the street is a guy I was in boot camp with, and he stepped on a fucking mine. And, he looked like he was, we're all 19, 20 years old at the time. I don't know how old I was, but, just in my early 20s at the most. Man, he looked like he was 60 years old, man. The way he was walking. And he was walking then like I walk now with my 2 hip replacements. But, just there's a higher power, I feel, that generates all these moves, and you have to assist them in the journey. But I don't know. I don't know if I even answered the question, but
I think you did.
I mean, who knows, man?
Well, I got you a gift too. It's not a challenge coin, but it's Vigilance League gummy bears, made in the USA, legal in all 50 states.
Really?
Yeah.
In all 50 states.
That means there's no funny business in those. But yeah.
I got you.
I'm going to
appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure. Could you give us a history lesson on the Hells Angels, how they started, when they came about?
Well, they were originally the Pissed Off Bastards.
Okay.
And a couple of the guys started 2 leaders. 2 leaders in one squad doesn't work sometimes. And they split. And the part of the Pissed Off Bastards became the Hells Angels. And in the little town Bloomington down there by San Bernardino Riverside, there was a gentleman who in 1978-79 claims that he started the Hells Angels. His name was Dick White. There's nobody kept any records back then. There was It was just unwritten rules. If you didn't make it or you didn't stand up for yourself, you know, usually wind up getting beat up and run off, and somebody'd wind up with your motorcycle and your jacket, and it was a pretty tough world. And we started in San Bernardino. In 1957, I'm going to back up. In 1956, Sonny Barger joined the Army, and he was 16. And they found out he was not a legal age, and they discharged him honorably. He started the Oakland Hells Angels with another gentleman named Boots. I don't know Boots' real name. I just know him by Boots. A lot of monikers in the Hells Angels, you know. The power base that was in Southern California made a transition. Sonny Barger was a kind of a natural leader, a very charismatic guy, and he pulled the power to the Bay Area. And probably by the early 60s and then into the mid 60s, he became the voice and the face of the Hells Angels. And he was very adamant that it was his club. Him and I used to argue all the time. I was kind of 10 years behind him in the pecking order. And his attitude was the club belonged to him. My attitude was we all belong to the club. But that's a brief history lesson. We started a tug of war, and we mentioned this earlier, between the North and the South, and it was a healthy rivalry, but sometimes it turned unhealthy and deadly. I know that Sonny, initially, if people look on the internet, the death head was called the Bumblebee death head, and it was very small, and it was kind of at a 45-degree angle, and you could see both wings. And Sonny there were two Hells Angels charters in Southern California. There was a SoCal Hells Angels that had nothing to do with the Purdue Hells Angels. It was two separate clubs with the same name. And Sonny basically said, you're either going to join with us or you're going to get pushed out. And in the process, he liked the patch better that a gentleman named Vic Bettenhart created. It was the side view death head, basically the death head you see nowadays in the patch. And he took that style, had him rewrite it, and then sent 12 patches to San Bernardino, 13 patches. I don't know how many people were in the club at that time down there, and said, this is the new patches, put these on, or the next time we see you guys, we're going to fight. And so, of course, San Bernardino, being San Bernardino Hells Angels, shot the patches full of holes, put them back in the box, and sent them to Oakland. And then, this is about 1965. I was told, I wasn't there, I was told it was 1965. I was still in high school. And the North and the South met at Bass Lake that year, and they fought it out. And that war went on for about, inter-conflict, if you want to call it, 3 or 4 years. Nobody was killed over that patch, but there was a lot of people beat up. I know that Sonny pistol whipped Grubby Glenn at Bass Lake that year, because Grubby said, I'm never putting that patch on, and I'm never not being a Hells Angel. And this is kind of a side story, a backstory. 25, 30 years later, I can't remember, Sonny gave Grubby Glenn the pistol as a gift. He pistol whipped him with at a big party at the San Bernardino clubhouse. Nice. So, you got that weird rivalry. I think the military people would relate to something like that. Citizens are like, oh my God, what the hell? You guys are crazy. Yeah, perhaps, but that's just all part of the game,
Yeah.
But I remember being at that party and Glenn opening that gift up, and Glenn looked at it and Sonny said, That's the pistol I pistol whipped you with at Bass Lake in 1965.
Wow.
And it just,
What kind of pistol
and
was
they're
it?
both felons. It was some revolver, I think.
Oh, right on.
Nothing special.
So let's talk about you then. So actually, so when it comes to do the clubs recruit?
Well,
Are they looking for people? How does it
there's
work?
two ways to build a club. One way is to push out the weak links, if you will. The other philosophy is
How do you do that?
you just start pushing and shoving, kind of. You know what it's like. I mean, I'm sure you guys, if you don't think somebody's,
I know how we do it. I'm curious how you do it.
well, we start kicking people's ass and putting them through tests.
What kind of tests?
Well, put them in a situation, perhaps with go to a bar. You know, there's going to be a problem. What are these guys made of? How are they going to conduct it? Maybe ask them to do something that a felony favor, and will they do it? Will they not do it? How important is getting in the Hells Angels or any club to that particular individual?
I'm sorry. I thought you meant pushing out the weak from that are already in.
Well, no, this is people coming in, but I'm gonna address that in a second. The second way to do things is you want to take over a club, you just take them over, bring everybody in, put a ear patch on them, and then start weeding them out. And,
okay.
Okay. The end result is the same.
Gotcha.
You're going to lose 50% of the guys. You're going to lose 50%. In the old school guys, they don't ever want those individuals to say, well, I used to be a Hell's Angel, even though it was a 3-month span. They don't want, you got guys like Doug the Thug running around and Moldy Marvin, they didn't want these guys having the ability to say that. Like up in Canada, I don't know if you know anything about Canada, very serious guys up there in Canada with the Hells Angels. They had a complete country patch over. I can't remember what year it was.
Country patch over?
They just took over all these clubs and put Hells Angel patches on them. And they used the second, way to weed things out. They put the patches on them, and then they weeded them out. And but what they did was they probably stopped a lot of law enforcement investigations prior. I mean, I'm sure the investigation started once the people put that new patch on, but you kind of go around the investigation, get in front of it, if you will. It's probably like in invading. If you guys are going to do an operation, you just go there and do it. Like they took that Venezuela president. They just went down there and got him. Brought him back. Whether right, wrong, or indifferent. Pussyfoot around.
I mean, I would think a lot of these guys would fight to the death over switching teams.
Well,
maybe not.
I think that there's a pecking order in the outlaw bike world. You've got what they called the Big Four at one time. It was the Hells Angels, the Outlaws, the Banditos, and the Pagans. Now you've got some additional clubs. You've got the Mongols, who really earned their place in that culture. We fought them in Southern California. We're still fighting them. We started in 1977, and it's still going on. I mean, a lot of lives lost on both sides. They're a real contender in the outlaw bike world. You got the Sons of Silence. You've got the Pagans now making this big move, I'm told, all over the United States. They're going into places they never went before. But you would hope that someone would fight to the death. I'm sure that, you hear about things that these different elite military groups do. These guys are there. I don't think they want to surrender. I don't know if I'm answering the question.
Yeah, you are. And so with the recruiting, is it, I mean, Are you? I guess are you? Is there outreach or is it just intake?
Well, that, again, there's two philosophies. You know, if you start petitioning people to get in the club, how on board are they? You know, it's better. I think it's better to have them come to you and want to be in the organization, be part of it. They want it so bad they can taste it. I don't know. I'm sure you know that feeling, man. You want it so bad you can taste it. And those are the hungry guys. Those are the guys I always looked at. I never went and recruited anybody. We had a situation in Ventura when the phenomena of street gang violence started, where these specific little street gangs were shooting at each other. We brought all the street gang leaders into the Ventura clubhouse and basically had a moratorium on the violence. You guys aren't going to shoot at each other in Ventura. We don't want the heat, man. It wasn't because we were being selfish about it. We didn't want to endanger the community, of course. We didn't want to see anybody get hurt, but it was really self-serving. You know, we didn't want the heat. We didn't want the government grants coming to town. I don't know if you know how much federal government, man. You got a Hell's Angel charter in your town. You can apply for government grants. You can get attached to a federal agency, create a task force. There's a lot of things that can transpire. And when we stopped that moratorium on the violence, some of these clubs, these street gangs are not clubs, they're street gangs. We call ourselves a club, but I mean, these guys call themselves street gangs. We started having some of the members gravitate from these street gangs. We wound up probably getting 1 to 2 or 3 new members in the mid-'90s from every street gang that we had approached and said, you're not going to be shooting at anybody. And we never petitioned them. They came on their own free will. A lot of people accused me of going out and poaching these guys in these street gangs. That never happened. These were guys that saw what was going on, saw the writing.
What if it did?
What's that?
What if it did?
Yeah.
What if you did recruit them from?
Yeah, who cares? Yeah. But, look, I left the club on good terms. And then as soon as Sonny and I were like fighting, like, unbelievably, before I got before I made the decision to leave.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Let's stay with recruiting.
Okay. So,
are you guys, I'm just curious, do you intake anybody that wants it bad? Are you looking for specific skills?
Specifics,
is there pluses?
I've been asked this question a lot. I'm just going to address it, and maybe you'll stop me if it's something that you're going to get into later. But it's usually white young guys. It's not because we're racist. There's Mexicans in the club. There's Filipinos in the club. But for years, there were no blacks in the club because we adopted the West Coast prison guidelines, and that is very strict. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, maybe not in the military so much as the prison culture, but the whites hang out with the whites, the Mexicans hang out with the Mexicans, the blacks hang out with the blacks. You got 3 factions in the penal system in California. You've got the Aryan Brotherhood. This is the original prison gangs. You've got the black guerrilla family, and you've got the Mexican mafia. And when you go to prison, the first thing they ask you is, and they use this term just like this, they'll say, hey, what car are you in? And you say, well, I'm in the black car, if you're identifying with the blacks, or I'm in the white car, I'm in the Mexican car. So the people that was...
Wouldn't that be pretty self-explanatory?
You'd think so.
You should go to fucking prison?
Yeah, but there's a lot of people. I've gone on shows in the past, and not only podcasts, but television shows, and we're accused of being racist, it's just not true. the East Coast Dragons the East Bay Dragons are a black club up in the Bay Area. They don't allow white guys in it. It's an all black club. You could say the same thing about them. It's not about race. It's just about the guys you were hanging out with, and the culture of that prison mentality.
I mean, if you go to prison though, and it's all based on race, why would they ask you what car you're driving?
They just do. It's just kind of a
look at.
Look, and let me tell you, in the old days, I went to prison in Texas in 2011. It's a completely different ball game. I had gone to prison in '86 the first time, so now it's 2013 when I get to prison in Texas, and they're still doing what car you riding in. Nobody asked me because everybody knew who I was, but the average inmate, they say, what car are you riding in? And you tell them, and then they say, what's your crime? And you tell them. Now, in the old days, there were particular things that weren't acceptable. Child molester, whatnot. Now they ask you, well, what's your crime? And they go, okay, what's your name? And they go, let's go over to the phone. They go over to the phone and they call home and go, hey, look this guy up. Everything's on the computer. Mm-hmm. And they know immediately if this guy says he's a bank robber, but in fact he's a child molester, or he's there for, some sort of pedophile type crime. These guys aren't accepted on the yard. It's very difficult for them. But these guys came, and the club started growing. The club got like a shot in the arm. The interesting thing is, some of the old guys didn't like the way the young guys dressed. I don't know if this happened in the military at all. They didn't like the music they listened to. They didn't like the philosophy was different than the old history of and tradition of the old guys. It was a whole new ball game for a lot of these guys.
There are a lot of dog foods out there, and they all say they have the best ingredients. But when you actually look at a lot of them, it's still overprocessed kibble, fillers, and ingredients you can barely pronounce. That's why I like Sundays. Sundays keeps it simple. It's vet-founded, human-grade dog food made with real meat, superfoods like kale, ginger, and blueberries, and they have no fillers. It's gently air-dried so you get real nutrition without needing a fridge, freezer, prep, or mess. And Stanley, my dog, he actually eats it. I put Sundays down, and he's on it. That tells me a lot. Clean ingredients, easy routine, and a happy dog. And if you have a small breed, Sundays just launched Small Bites for small dogs. Small air-dried nutrition, just in smaller 8mm pieces that are easier for small dogs to chew, self-feed, and finish comfortably. Make the switch to Sundays. Go right now to sundaysfordogs.com/SRS50 and get 50% off your first order. Or you can use code SRS50 at checkout. That's 50% off your first order at sundaysfordogs.com/SRS50. sundaysfordogs.com/SRS50. Or use code SRS50 at checkout. How has how have the core values of the Hells Angels changed from its inception to what it is today?
I think the breakdown would be in the Brotherhood. There's breakdown in the Brotherhood. I think, and I'm just going to pick a date out of thin air. In the early 70s, late 60s, if you didn't build your motorcycle from the ground up, and you rode it into some party or some camp to party with everybody, people would know, and you would not be accepted. You probably get asked to leave if, not getting a physical confrontation. Back then, you have to understand, there was no warehouses where you could mail order all your parts. Hey, I want to chrome this. Hey, I want a special clutch lever. Everybody was making that stuff by hand. And I'll admit that there were a few people leading the way, like Dean Lanza, Dick Woods, these different bike builders up and down the coast. And you could tell, geographically, you could tell where somebody was from. It was like an accent. Okay. You look at somebody's bike and you go, this guy's from San Fernando Valley. This guy's from the Bay Area. This guy's a San Diego guy. Because they had a particular accent to them. And it's been diluted now. You can go in the shop, and if you got $30,000, you can buy a Harley Davidson, and you can be a biker. I had lunch with the Davidson family once, and I was serious, but I was giving them a hard time, kind of joking. I said, and this is a true story. In the old days, you go into the Harley shop and you were an outlaw biker. They didn't want your business. They didn't even want you in there. And I was actually telling Willie Davidson and his son, I can't think of his son's names. He was head of marketing at the time. That they should give me a bike because they were now selling cutoff vests. They were selling leather pants. They were selling bandanas. They were selling things now that when we were dressing like that in the 60s and 70s, they were condemning, and it just made this huge transition. So we had a name for them as things progressed from the 70s into the 80s. And by the end of the 80s, we called them rubs. Have you ever heard that term? Mm-mm. Rich urban bikers.
Oh, man. This is another thing that drove. So
rich urban bikers. Anybody can buy a bike.
This is embarrassing. I'm going to tell you this story about, well, hold on. I got to cut out the quote just a random. What's your favorite bike of all time?
FXR.
Oh, shit. Right on.
What about you?
I bought this fucking Big Bear Athena chopper when I was, I had never ridden a motor. So yeah, what did you call him? The
rub?
Yeah, I was a brub. So, I was really,
can't be a rub.
I was really interested in this stuff. And then I started contracting for which I'd never made that kind of money before. So I come home after the first contract and I'm like,
I'm ready to go.
I'm going to buy a fucking bike now. Yeah. And so I went to the Cutting Edge Cycles in St. Charles, Missouri.
Do you know who ran it?
Man, his name was Mark, but I can't remember his last name at this time. But so I went in there, ordered a bike, got the Big Bear Athena chopper with a 300 rear tire. I'd never ridden a fucking motorcycle. I rid a dirt bike once, about killed myself. So it finally comes in. I go on another appointment. I come back and I'm like, oh yeah, it's in the box. He breaks the fucking box up, wheels it out. I'm like, give him the money, cash, about 35 grand. And
expensive.
Like, yeah. And my first bike, and I'll go, I looked at him and I go, how do you start this fucking thing anyways? And he just looked at me, he goes, you just bought a $35,000 bike and you don't know how to fucking start it. And I said, what, do you want me to return it? And
I don't think he did.
Yeah, he goes, all right, here you go. Tried to get it out of the parking lot, put the kickstand down. I was like, you might want to deliver this one. So he did. And then got home, took off right to the bar. And there was a biker bar right down the road from where I lived. Went in there, and that's what I went in there. Everybody had their fucking chains and their vests and their bandanas and all this shit. And I'm like, aren't you my fucking dentist? And then the other guy's an attorney. And I'm like, this is like the shittiest bar in St. Louis. And it's full of fucking dentists, doctors, and lawyers.
Yep.
I'm out of here. This is like a costume party.
Yeah.
So I went home.
Did you sell it?
What's that?
Did you sell it finally?
I kept it. I moved down to Florida. I went to Biketoberfest and about killed myself doing that.
Did you ever go down on it?
What's that?
Did you ever go down on it?
Yeah, at 3:00 in the morning with a chick on the back. But and I didn't get arrested for whatever reason, probably because it was Biketoberfest. But
and the cops came and
oh yeah.
Did you get hurt?
Nope.
No. How about her?
Nope.
No.
No helmets. Lucky.
Really, no helmets.
Yeah. But
had you been drinking?
It was 3:00 in the morning at Biketoberfest.
I don't want to start an inquisition here.
So, oh man, yeah, it was a wild time.
And how long did you keep it after that?
I probably had it for, I don't know, maybe 3 years.
I'll tell you, if you would have gotten a bike, well, I always push the FXRs because I've had them all in the Harleys, and the FXR was probably the best handling, the most reliable bike Harley Davidson perhaps ever made, in my expectations. The FXR Sport, it had 2 discs on the front, disc brake on the back, and there was a gentleman that worked for Harley named Jerry Branch in Long Beach, and he had this ported and polished heads and a carburation, and he had a whole little kit you could have them put on at the Harley shop. And I became good friends with this Monty from Ventura Harley Davidson, and so I got one of the first FXRs in Ventura.
That's cool.
He called me and said, "Hey man, you got to come down there. This motor's unbelievable. They made so many changes in the motor. Like I was looking at the motor over there
For my friend.
yeah, and that motor was the Prelude. The next motor was the Evolution, and it was all rubber mounted, and it was just like a whole new motorcycle. And people are going to call bullshit, but it's the truth. I swear, I changed the lifters and the valves. The lifters and the cam, the followers and I don't even think I changed the pistons, man. I had like 300,000 miles on it. It was just incredible motorcycle. Just rode it everywhere. I've got some. I got a cool picture. A couple of cool pictures. I'll get to you. But before that, I built a bike. I won a bike in a dice game from the Saint and Slaves. This is in 1978. Bill Reed and I. Bill Reed was a Saint and Slave. I was a Hell's Angel. We were real close, man. I spent so much time with the Saint and Slaves, the gang intelligence cops down in Los Angeles said I was a member of the Saint and Slaves. They didn't even realize I was a Hell's Angel. I spent so much time with these guys. I was always with them. And we got a dice game going, and he had got a bike from somebody, decided he didn't want it. And, so we started this dice game, and I wound up with a bike. I've got this picture. It's almost like a prelude to the next bike Harley Davidson made. Now, people will say, bullshit, Harley Davidson didn't copy him. Yeah, Harley Davidson copied this. Monty was right around the corner. The Ventura Harley shop was on one street, and then on the back street was the Ventura Hells Angels clubhouse. And Monty told us he would come over there to see what we were doing. I had a guy, David Ortega, like my closest brother. We were either loving on each other or fighting. That's one of them deals. And I would do all the mechanical work, and he would do all the fabrication. And we came up with this bike, and he came up with a paint. He's the first, and I said, David, I want an all black bike. And he came up with this paint, painted the heads, the front end, the cam cover, the primary cover. The whole bike was black, and it was just highlighted with a little bit of chrome. And probably 2 years later, Harley came out with what they called the Night Train. They had copied it, but
I remember that.
You remember the Night
Yeah,
Train?
a bunch of guys on the SEAL teams bought a Night Train.
Yeah, that was a bike that David Ortega and I created, and every once in a while I'll put that bike up on social media, and people they'll go, that's the bike that started the trend for black stuff. And it was a combination. David and I did it together, but it was just incredible bike. That's a picture I'll send you. It's a really cool picture.
We'll put it up.
Yeah.
I wound up getting rid of it because I could just never find anybody to ride with.
But you know what? I bet you if you would have got it, I lost, I got to telling the story, and I got lost direction. If you would have got an FXR, really good handling bike, you maybe still be riding today.
I've been thinking about getting another one. Maybe
I'm telling you, FXR, a lot of the they've got some new stuff out. I like the FXR, which you should do. You should go to the Harley shop and say, look, man, I want a bike comparable to a FXR. I want this all about handling and performance, and they come now with big motors in them. 101 inches. This is stuff like the first time I built a big hot rod motor in a bike, and nobody would share nothing with you. You'd have to learn trial and error, and I put the bike together. I didn't shave the valve skirts, and they're hitting, and I've got this noise, and they're just clipping each other, and they're not enough to hurt anything. Perhaps over a period of time it would have been. I'm like, what the hell is that? So I take it apart, start inspecting everything. I see the scuff marks on the pistons, on the skirts. Okay, I got to shave this. I got to cut this out. Then it's oiling, and what I didn't do was, there's inside oilers on the motors back then. I should have plugged the holes and put outside oilers to the heads to get the oil up there in the heads. And I didn't know the trick. And I said to some old man, I go, maybe I didn't plug the goddamn oil passages on the barrels. And he got this big smile on his face. He goes, bingo. And he wouldn't tell me. He could have told me, but he wouldn't. He wanted me to find out for myself. And I think that's part of the thing that's wrong with this country today. Nobody's like thinking for themselves, man,
I think that's a big part of what's wrong with this country.
Yeah.
I got another random question for you that just popped in my head. I'm just curious. You were out by now. Do you remember a couple years ago when Harley Davidson went woke?
Yeah.
What is a guy like you, or just the Hells Angels, or any biker gang in general? What happened there? People were blowing their motorcycles up.
Yeah, I think the whole world. I was in Spain. I went to Spain. I come back from prison. My second marriage is in it's crashing and burning. Trying to keep it together for my son. I have a young son. He's 22 now, and it just ain't working. So I have this. I put out my second book, Marked, and it's a fictional novel about my life. And so I get this message from this production company. We want to option your book. And so my daughter's my lawyer, so I put my daughter on him. And all expenses paid. I'm going to Spain. I'm living in a luxury apartment, the whole 9 yards. So I go over to Spain, and I'm looking at the United States now from a distance, and it's just like everything. It was like I walked into a different country when I came back. And I'll tell you, the other time I had an experience like that. It's 2002. I'm fighting a 59 count state racketeering case. Anything you can think of, they alleged I had something to do with it. And the Twin Towers gets bombed, attacked. And I'm in solitary confinement. There's a rumbling around the jail that something's going on. The daytime guard's a complete asshole. I said, hey, what's going on? He goes, you don't need to worry about what's going on. You need to worry about what's going on in here. I said, yeah, but, my family's out there. I go, is there a war? What are we doing, And in February, that's 9/11, September. In February of the following year, I finally get out. The case just collapses. The lawyers are just tearing it apart. It collapses. They let me out, and they offer me time served. And Tony Serra, a very famous lawyer in San Francisco, he says, you got to take the deal, George. He goes, we fight this case. You're going to be fighting in another 3 or 4 years. So I take the deal, but I walk out of that jail, and you asked me earlier about the Brotherhood, and I have a stage play that I do. I wrote a 2-hour stage play, and in the stage play, I talk about walking out of that solitary confinement. You got sensory deprivation, and the sunlight, haven't been in natural sun in over a year. And not only had the Twin Towers fall. They had fell. They were attacked, but the Brotherhood in the club was affected. It was like the whole world. It was like the whole world shifted, and I walked into a different world, and I could feel it, you know. And it's like, you know, cancel culture. I mean, all this shit's starting to go on, and you know, like you say, Harley goes woke. I mean, who would have thought?
Never would I have thought that.
No, who would have thought that? You know, I don't know, man. You know, I look back. I'm pushing 80, man. I'm gonna hit 80 here pretty quick.
Have they redeemed themselves?
I don't know. You know, I go to the Harley shop now. I still ride. I don't work on bikes anymore. I don't like it, man. I don't like bending over for more than 20 minutes. You know, they're trying, but I bought my first bike for $200, man. $250. I can't even remember what I paid for it. You can't even get an oil. I mean, last time I went in to get the oil changed, the bill was like $400 or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a completely different world. You know, will it ever shift back? I don't think things shift back. I think we have to adapt. I think there has to be awareness here with, you know, people in the country. I'll give you a pretty example. My wife and I have a Jack Russell dog. Fonzie's his name. He's 12 years old. I mean, you know what it's like having a dog, man. You know, he's everything to us. He gets diagnosed with his paw has cancer in it. So he has a toe removed, you know. We get everything done. We're out of state. We have an appointment set up for him. We have a person to pick him up, take him, and, you know, the doctor changes the appointment. And we get upset. You know, I said, look, we've got this whole thing shifted. We're in 3,000 miles away, and we made an appointment. And she goes, well, I called and left a message. And I go, did you get a confirmation? And she winds up telling my wife, Beverly, I don't like the way you're talking to me. I mean, you know,
Jeez.
fucking, you know, man up a little bit, toughen up. You know, you don't like the way somebody's talking to you. I mean, you're there accommodating people. That's what you're doing. Beverly wasn't out of line. I was right there when I heard what was going on, and I'm like, the degree of anger, you know, is like rising. And I mean, how do you deal with people like that, and how do you straighten it out? Will it ever be straightened out? I don't know. You know, Is that how cultures collapse? Is that how societies come to an end? Yeah. You know, this is an appropriate time for me to talk about my speech when I left the club, but I'm going to wait because I know you probably want to talk about that. But did Harley redeem themselves? I don't know. You know, there's a lot of things going on in this country that need redemption.
Yeah.
And it's not happening.
Well, let's get back to you.
All right.
So we know what caught your interest in motorcycles and clubs. How did you get in? How did it all start?
You know, it's interesting. So I'm running around with the question marks, and Dick Woods is the founder and leader of the question marks, and got some serious guys in the question marks. And Dick, the Hessians steal one of the Saint and Slaves bikes. They bring it up to the Ventura area. So the Saint and Slaves, we're part of that. Now, the Hessians aren't in that 1% coalition at this time. The Saint and Slaves say, hey, we're coming up to Ventura, man. The Hessians stole one of our bikes. We're coming up to get it. You know, we want you to know. So question marks, you know, we all go down to the Sinner's Palace and recover the bike. You know, a few people get lumped up, some hurt feelings. Dick Woods comes in there after everybody's left. He thinks the event's still going on. We're dealing with these guys. Walks in the back door, and somebody that holds a position of hang around with the Hessians stabs Dick in the back. Dick becomes partially paralyzed, never the same. The question marks slowly begin to unravel. I start hanging out with the Satan slaves. We go up on the Kern River, doing a lot of runs. The Hells Angels show up there. And in that group of Hells Angels that show up, there's a gentleman named Old Man John. And he's an old man, like I'm 20, mid-20s, probably mid-20s by now, 24 maybe. And, I mean, he looks like an antique to me, He looks pretty good now that I think back. But at that time, I'm thinking, man, this guy's old, and he's riding his bike. And he knows, you're living in this very small community of outlaw bikers. And the Satan slaves had been talking about me. And Old Man John got word. And the Satan slaves had a different posture for recruitment than the Hells Angels. We talked about this a little bit earlier. The Satan slaves, you had to ask to join. I didn't know any of the rules. I'm just some kid hanging out with these guys. I want to be like them. Old Man John sees me, takes an interest in me. The Hells Angels have a different posture in Los Angeles. They would say, you have any interest in the club? And that's what Old Man John said to me. He said, do you have any interest in the club? And I just, I have an interest in the whole lifestyle, John. Mm-hmm. And he gives me a card. It says, come to the clubhouse and visit me. And that's basically how it all started for me with the Hells Angels. Started hanging out with them. The interesting thing is everybody wants to know about what happens when you're a prospect. What do you do when you're a prospect? You basically do whatever they ask you to do, and it's a shit job. A lot of meaningless jobs, just get me a hamburger, make sure the beer is cold, things of that nature. The real learning experience and what really defines your tenure in the Hells Angels is what you do after you make member. A lot of people would just as soon go sit on the couch and not do anything. But if you want to make a name for yourself, you got to engage, you got to get involved. And one of the first things I had to do, I mentioned the war with the Mongols earlier. I walked into a room, and there was 4 or 5 guys in there. We were having a beef with the Mongols, and they were talking about blowing up their clubhouse bike shop. And I immediately heard it was happening, and I told the guys, I go, look, man, I don't know if you've ever thought about collateral damage. I go, you want to put a bomb in a public business? I go, I don't think that's a very good idea. I go, I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm out of here. Now, I was a Hells Angel at the time. So they went ahead and put the bomb in there.
The Hells Angels put the bomb in
the Mongols club bike shop. It's called a frame up, but it was kind of a clubhouse bike shop place.
And this is while you were a prospect?
No, I'm a member now.
You're a member.
It's 1977. And put the bomb there. I don't know what the trigger mechanism is or whatever. It didn't go off. So John comes to me and goes, so you walked in with those guys and you walked out? And I go, yeah. He goes, well, they don't think you're committed. And he goes, so I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to go get the bomb. And I want you to retrieve it. And then we had a place downtown that we called the Armory. It wasn't a real armory. It was a storage place, a garage. And in the storage place, we had 2,000 pounds of dynamite. We had a British anti-tank weapon. It stood on a big, I don't know what size shell it was, but it was on a big tripod. It was as big as a car. And had machine guns in there, handguns, had a lathe to make silencers. John sent me to retrieve the bomb. Myself and another guy, Jesse, we went and got it. And John said, just bring it back, drop it off. I'll have the guys that made it dismantle it. because I kind of said, look, man, I'm getting involved in this. I don't know what the hell's going on here. These guys.
You want me to go get some unexploded ordnance?
Yeah, that's somebody that didn't know what he
Bring it
was
into
doing.
the building with all of our fucking weapons and ammo.
Yeah, and I
What
just
could
said,
go wrong?
I go, whatever, man. So this is the thing when you start getting deeper and deeper. Now, what happened was John got fed up. We were fighting with Oakland at the time. John got fed up, stepped down. A new guy took over the club. It was this guy, Ray Glore. And Ray had somebody come in that knew how to make a bomb. And what they did is they took a tire, they stuffed it full of dynamite around the tire, and they took the valve and they used it as a pressure release trigger. As you pull it out, and the stem comes up, and then the contacts hit, and then it goes. They take it in, and the bomb goes off. They go to change a tire, and Mongol gets killed. His 15-year-old cousin gets killed. And now the war is just, it's full-on war, man, with these Mongols. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make is, people think, well, you're a prospect, and then you get in the club, and it's drinking and partying. And that's the way it was supposed to be. But the dynamics of the problem with the Mongols, it changed the whole structure in Southern California. And it's not something I'm proud of. I mean, I was there when the whole thing was, it turned an abrupt, reverse or whatever you want to call it, wherever it went. It was now, it was basically urban warfare. Jingles and you got a guy Jingles and Redbeard. They get shot off their bike.
Holy shit.
They get killed by Guy Castellano. Guy is the president of San. Guy's dead now. A lot of people make claims. Oh, you're telling this and you're telling that. Hey, everybody's dead but me. There's a couple of guys left, and Guy's gone. Who's going to jail? Nobody. So I tell these stories, but
what was the beef over?
The beef started. Chester Green was a Hell's Angel from the Bay Area. There was another guy, Whispering Bill Pfeiffer. He was a Hell's Angel from the Bay Area. These two guys wrote in. I can't remember if they came from Georgia or Texas, and they wanted to become Hell's Angels. And so they ride from into California, up in the Bay Area, and they're petitioning people, hey, we want to come around, we're cool guys and whatnot. Well, we had a little thing we used to do back then. We call the acid test. You give people LSD, and sometimes you gave them too much, sometimes by design, sometimes by accident. And one of the guys flipped out. They were trying to restrain him, and he died. He succumbed to whatever. They hogtied him or whatever, trying to keep him restrained. So somebody in the upper echelon, I can only speculate who, they make a call and they say, this guy died. We got a witness. His partner's still here and he's alive. So somebody says, he's got to go, man. And they decide to kill that guy. So they kill both these guys. They take them up to a well, abandoned well in Northern California. A former member named George Weathering. They dump him in the well. And Whispering Bill is dying of cancer. And somehow he gets tied into this and picks up a beef. He becomes an informant. Tells them there's bodies buried up at this ranch, on George Weathering's ranch. And Whispering Bill, George Weathering, and Chester Green all become informants. And are testifying against the other people that were involved in that crime. Chester Green refuses to go in the witness protection program. Whispering Bill goes into witness protection. George Weatherman goes into witness protection program. Chester Green decides he's going to hide in plain sight. He goes to Southern California and joins the Mongols. So if you read what law enforcement says, they always say the fight started over the California bottom rocker. It's not really what the fight started over. The fight started over Chester Green becoming a Mongol and him being an informant. And, Chester Green apparently convinced the Mongols he was not an informant. I don't know how or why or, why they didn't check up with us. Nevertheless, he was now a Mongol.
Would that have been, I would imagine that would not be a welcoming call. Hey, we got your guy here that wants to join the Mongols, but we would just want to check and make sure he's not an informant.
Yeah, you'd think they'd do some follow-up, but, and perhaps they knew what the consequence was, that these guys would have said, oh, yeah, hold him in the back room. We'll be down there in 6 hours.
So that actually would have been a friendly call between clubs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it didn't work out that way.
You guys hated each other, or you didn't
No,
hate
we
each
didn't
other
at that time.
Oh, okay.
They were their own little motorcycle club. And at that particular time, the Mongols were a new, obscure club. And at that particular time, the Hells Angels were royalty, man. It was our world. We were the number one club, and no other clubs would go, well, we were just as good, and perhaps they were just as good. But in California, we ruled California. It was our state wherever we went. So we all decided to go to a swap meet. You got to pay attention to the convoluted story. So we all decided to go to a swap meet. Swap meets are new. It's 1977. They got this new deal they do where people bring motorcycle parts and they put them on the floor and people walk around and they bid on stuff. I'll give you $200 for that or whatever. They sell alcohol in there. They have loud music, which is probably not a good combination in that particular environment. So we're in there. There's 9 Hells Angels in there, and there's probably 40 to 60 Mongols in there. Now, there's 2 people in there, their worlds are about to collide. One of them is a Hells Angel, one of them is a Mongol. You've got a Hells Angel that's wife ran off with the Mongol, and they walk in there and they see each other. And the Hells Angel and him and I are best friends still to this day. We talk. He's an ex-Hells Angel now. He doesn't say a word to anybody. He just pulls back and clocks this guy, and the fight's on. Now, how do I know specifically how many people were there? Because in the group of 9 Hells Angels, there's a police informant in the group. And if you read Chain of Evidence, it's a book written by the police officer that was handling him. So the cops have a crisis of conscience. Do they jump in and stop this conflict? Or do they don't want to blow his undercover work and let him continue fighting? They decide to let him continue fighting. So we have specific numbers. It's, you get that book, it's in that book. So you've got 9 Hells Angels fighting all these Mongols. And one cop comes in there and he's got a revolver. All he's got is a revolver, man. It's, 1977. He doesn't look like he's tenured very much. I mean, he's just very young looking. And I remember the gun looking, I had 2 thoughts. The gun looked that big, but I also looked at the cylinder and I go, he's only got 6 shots. There's like 60 of us in here fighting. But ballsy guy, he stopped the fight. The Mongols broke and they ran. They didn't break because they were afraid. They broke first. And I think probably part of the reason was we were surrounded by the Mongols. We couldn't go anywhere. We were fighting them. We were all back to back fighting these guys. And they broke, then we broke, and we had a short moratorium on the violence. We said, let's not let this escalate. Old man John went and negotiated with him later that night, which I thought was a bad idea. I was kind of coming up in the club. I remember telling John, I go, look, negotiating, man. I go, let's let them brew on it for 2 or 3 days. Let them consider what's going to be the consequence for fighting with the Hells Angels. And then I said, then we can go negotiate. And John was just an old school, upfront kind of guy. And, he said, go in the goddamn clubhouse. Or, you're a new guy. This is my call. And I said, okay, whatever, man. So sat in the clubhouse all night. He came back in the morning when the sun was coming up, said, okay, everything's cool. We're not going to fight. John said, I've had enough. He stepped down as president. New guy, Ray Glore, takes over. The shooting with Guy Castellano takes place to kill Redbeard and Jingles. The bombing takes place shortly after that on Ray's orders. And probably within, 6 months, there's 6 murders in Southern California. And one of them is Los Angeles Hells Angels' new leader. He had sent people over to the garage. He had got busted. And then he said he wanted to empty the garage. But what he did is he sent people over to the garage, and the police were waiting there. That's where the dynamite and everything was. And later that night, somebody went back, shot Ray, killed him.
Shit.
But the interesting thing was, so you've got 2,000 pounds of dynamite. I don't know if the anti-tank gun was still there at that time, but you've got machine guns. You've got silencers, and they got out of they beat the case basically. And how do you think they beat the case? It seems very convoluted, but then when one of these young lawyers comes up with the idea, and he tells the prosecutor, he goes, "You're not going to win this case." And the prosecutor goes, "Why not? You guys are dead to right." He goes, "Well, let me ask you this." He goes, "Was there any dynamite in the garage when they got there?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "Was there any guns in there?" He said, "No." They had emptied the garage for community and public safety. They'd taken all the dynamite.
Wow.
So there was nothing in there. So in essence, they went to an empty garage, and this young hotshot lawyer, he tells them, how are you going to prove what their state of mind was? Did they think it was empty, or did they think it was full? You don't know. And he goes, I'm not putting them on the stand. You're never going to know. And he goes, you can't win this case. And basically what they did is they dropped the charges on 2 of the guys, and one guy pled guilty to possession of a machine gun without a license. And he got like probation, time served in probation. He just did a few days in jail. So people think, oh, you get voted in the club and it's all over with. Well, perhaps it's just beginning.
Yeah. Wow.
Can we take a little break?
Yeah, let's take a break. Look, I am really picky when it comes to gear. If I'm going to use something every single day, it has to actually perform and do what it says it's going to do. It can't just look good in a product photo. It has to be light, durable, comfortable, and it has to do what it's supposed to do. And that's why I like RICO. RICO was born in Austin, Texas, and American designed with 0 shortcuts. Their eyewear is built for people who are outside, active, training, traveling, working, or podcasting, and actually using what they buy. The first thing you're going to notice is the fit. They're lightweight, they stay in place, and they're comfortable enough to wear all day long. The optics are razor sharp. There's no glare, and they don't have that cheap sunglasses feel where you're constantly adjusting them. And I like that RICO doesn't look overbuilt. It's performance eyewear, but it still looks clean enough to wear every day. They also offer prescription sunglasses and eyeglasses. And if you're outfitting a law enforcement unit, military team, or looking for corporate gifts that your team will actually like, RICO has wholesale partnerships too. I've been wearing Roca for a while now, and let me tell you, they are the real deal. Ready to upgrade your eyewear for summer? Check them out for yourself at roca.com and use code SRS for 20% off site-wide at checkout. That's ROKA.com, code SRS. Looking for another way to support The Shawn Ryan Show? Head to ShawnRyanShow.com and check out the latest drops from Vigilance Elite. We just released new gear, including this beautiful moisture-wicking VE performance hat and SRS campfire mugs, and you guessed it, Vigilance Elite gummy bears. Oh, shit! Every purchase directly supports the show and helps us continue bringing you independent conversations without compromise. Visit ShawnRyanShow.com and grab yours today. Well, what you were just talking about was pretty interesting. You were talking about the 70s for the Hells Angels was a rough time.
Yeah, as the 70s approached, the body count started mounting up. And when I say body count, talking about the what the police described as in-house murders or killings. The rumor was somebody had stole something from Sonny, had broken his house and stole something. I don't know if it's true or not. Ultimately, he paid for that with his life. Then there was a gentleman named Stork that one of the early informants. Prior to that time, nobody had ever flipped on the Hells Angels. Had a pretty solid record, and then Stork was going to testify for the prosecution in a case. He wound up shot, if I recall, side of the road, unsolved murder. Then you had Terry the Tramp, who was in Hells Angels 69. Sonny took exception to his popularity, and underneath everything, Sonny and him were in business together, and there was some money owed, and they were waiting for a big amount of money to come in. And
what was the money for?
LSD.
LSD?
Yeah.
What are the primary sources of revenue for the Hells Angels?
I think, this is interesting. Like, I've always contended, and I still do, even though I'm not a member, I don't have to defend the Hells Angels. I like to tell it like it is. The Hells Angels is not a criminal organization, John. It's an organization with criminals in it. And people see opportunities, and they seize them, if you will. And I think that there was a lot of stuff going on. There was a gentleman named Osley. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He was kind of the premier LSD maker in the Bay Area. And then for the West Coast, he made, I knew him. He made drugs for the Grateful Dead, and that just kind of, tentacled out from there. Was a lot of money in it. There's allegations of, CIA stuff and whatnot. That it always seems
like MK Ultra type stuff.
Yeah, and it always seems that.
Was there any validity to that?
I don't know.
And MK Ultra is a real thing.
Yeah, I don't know. You had Timothy Leary floating around in there. Do you remember Timothy Leary, the LSD guru?
Oh, okay.
Tune in, turn on, and drop out. You had these things, and we're coming out of the '60s. Kennedy's assassinated, and the Kennedy brothers assassinated. Martin Luther King. I mean, you have all these things happening that really create an era of paranoia, if you will.
Kind of like today.
Absolutely, And look, how do I say this? I guess I just say it is how I say it. You've seen things that probably the average person, they're suspect when you tell them. I don't think it's quite that way anymore. It's like I've seen things. I used to tell people for years that, well, you don't know what the government really does. And, people kind of, things I said in the early 80s.
You were ahead of your time.
Well, they made me ahead of my time because they made a believer out of me. When investigations taking place, we got off track, but I'll swing back around. When investigations taking place, and these guys start going out of the guidelines of investigative things that are acceptable or legal or however you want to describe them, you have like having an awakening. You're going, wow, they're really doing this, and you learn real fast. I had a conversation with a guy one time. They said that I had ordered a murder, and I had 19 conversations with the guy. Well, the tape recorder only worked on 2 of the conversations. I mean, it's very suspect. The listening device or recorder, whatever they were using, didn't work the other, 17 times. I think that getting back on that subject, Sonny had some real hard feelings for Terry the Tramp. Terry the Tramp was in that movie. You said you remembered the movie. You remember the character. The club was going through a transition. We had decided that you could not shoot drugs anymore intravenously. We're trying to kind of clean up some things. If you've ever been around any junkies, you know what they're like. I mean, they'll do anything to get that fix. Terry kind of got pushed out of the club. That was the main reason. But shortly after Terry was out of the club, he got given a hot shot. You know what a hot shot is. I don't know if you're subscribed.
I don't know what a hot shot is.
You do or don't?
I do not.
Okay, hot shot is a mixture of narcotics that will makes you unable to breathe. I mean, you OD. Your body ODs, and you shoot it intravenously, and you succumb to the narcotics. And I was told by a high-ranking guy in the Hells Angels, I write about it in my book, Outlaw Riding Through the Storm, that he was ordered to go over there and give Terry a hot shot. And he did. And that's another murder. Then you've got Gary Robles, another strong-minded Hells Angel. He winds up dead. You've got Harry the Horse out of San Francisco. He winds up dead. And you've got this trail of people through the 70s that are casualties of a political agenda going on. And I'm not sure why. It just basically happens. The whole thing seems to end in 1980 with the murder of my vice president, Craig Kuhn. Jesse, it was his name, that's what we knew him by. All these murders are unsolved. So when people talk about tough times, the 70s were a real tough time. You've got probably, Rolling Stone did an article about it, a decade of murders that remain unsolved by the, in-house cleaning is how law enforcement describes it.
Was it house cleaning?
I think some of it probably was. Yeah. I mean, some of it we don't know. Some of it I think was personal.
I mean, how is this? I mean, you're the head of the Ventura chapter.
Correct.
So where do these hits come from? I mean, your VP gets killed.
Right.
Murdered, assassinated.
Well, here you've got a situation, and I'm speculating, here you've got a situation that you got a group of guys that come out of Los Angeles. You've got murders down there through bombings, through, pistol assassination, or however you want to describe it. And they move up to Ventura. My speculation is somebody got suspicious. Jesse picked up another. Jesse's the guy that got the. Remember, I described the machine gun case. He got a beef. He was on probation for possessing a machine gun without a license. He picked up a. Are you familiar with the term mayhem?
No.
Mayhem is if you and I get in a physical altercation. That's like an assault and battery. If you were to bite my ear and take part of my ear off, then it becomes mayhem, and that's a much more serious degree of felony. Accompanied
club.
An assault. Yeah. So Jesse got in a fight with a bouncer. Jesse was kind of an unassuming guy, but he was one of the toughest guys I'd run into in a long time. He goes to this bar by himself. The bouncer. The guy has Hell's Angel stuff on. The bouncer starts insulting him. They wind up getting in a fight. The bouncer's kind of a big guy, bigger than Jesse. Jesse beats him up and bites the tip of his ear off, just for good measure. Gets a mayhem beef. Somebody becomes suspect that, what if Jesse wants to make a deal? So obviously Jesse was involved in something in Los Angeles that has made somebody nervous. And basically it's, they're going to eliminate the weak link. Whether Jesse was a weak link or not, no one will ever know. He's gone. I don't believe he was a weak link, but somebody did. And, people think that all these things are structured like I'm going to make
a military unit.
Yeah, and it sometimes people take things, upon themselves. I don't know. You've probably been in combat situations.
Well, hold on. So it's not structured like that. So what is there? Is there a hierarchy?
There is a structure, but if look, murder is a serious offense with no statute of limitations, and you don't want to get involved in a conspiracy. Like, people will come up and talk to me about let's do this or let's do that. My first thought was, is this guy on the level, or is this guy recording me and trying to set me up? I got arrested in 1986 because the Mexican mafia said they were going to kill a former associate of ours. And I got in this dialogue with this Mexican mafia member who actually had become a FBI informant. So he's got me acknowledging that they're going to kill this guy. And I wind up getting a beef. I beat the case because the jury said, well, Christie had no interest in killing this guy. You guys had an interest in killing him, but it was a hoax. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. What I'm asking, I want to know, how is the organization broken down? What is its hierarchy? So is the Ventura chapter
each charter
seniority over the
each charter
San Diego chapter?
Each charter is autonomous to itself. That's why the federal government has never been successful trying to throw a racketeering charge. Are you familiar with the RICO?
A little bit.
Yeah. RICO is a specific crime where you can take people's underlings and take the crimes they've committed and say they were directed by the hierarchy. So it becomes a racketeering, influenced, corrupt organization, RICO. And so if they get 2 or 3 guys and you get, say, a group of 10 guys that they say are part of the established hierarchy in the Hells Angels, and you get these guys saying, yeah, I killed this guy, and I did this here, and I sold drugs there, and I did it all at the behest of this guy, and this guy. It came down from the top. The order came down from the top. I completed the criminal act. They become the informants, and the hierarchy, the guys in the structure get popped. We didn't structure the Hells Angels like that. Each charter is autonomous to itself. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
It does make sense, but what I want to know then is who approves a new charter. So when you started the charter in Ventura,
yeah.
who approves that?
I'm laughing because I just grabbed the guys and moved up there and started it, because my philosophy was, if you're a real Hell's Angel, you don't take orders from anybody. You do what you want to do. And that kind of goes back to when I got in trouble in the military. I take it upon myself to do something. But getting back to your question, that's the way I did it. Was it appropriate? No, but it was effective because I got my charter and it lasted. It's still going today. I'm no longer involved, but it's a vote. If like when we got ready to vote the Dirty Dozen. Have you ever heard of that club?
Mm-hmm.
You have?
I think so.
Yeah, the Dirty Dozen was a club in Arizona, a very strong club. They ran the whole state. And in the mid to late 90s, we voted them in as Hell's Angels. And the vote was across the United States. Every charter in the United States had to vote on it. And they got a unanimous vote, and they became a Hell's Angel charter. But it's kind of complex because we're independent, yet we're structured as an organization, but we don't take, like somebody from another charter can't come and say, I'm the international leader and this is what you guys are going to do. Somebody comes to Ventura and says, this is what I want you guys to do. You say, well, hey, this is Ventura. This is our community. Don't come to town and tell us what you think we should do within our community. We know what's best for us as an organization. Get out of here. But it makes for a good argument in a courtroom. We get in a courtroom. Let's go back or ahead or wherever we're at to 1979, 78. The Hells Angels in the San Francisco area get indicted for racketeering. Are you familiar with this case?
No.
No. Okay, so 1979, they get indicted for racketeering. They have one trial, and it's a mistrial. They have another trial, and it's a mistrial. So you got two big trials that is very expensive. They're not successful, and you're going to identify with this. You know who the prosecutor was in that case. You don't, because you don't know about the case, but Robert Mueller was a young prosecutor in San Francisco, and he prosecuted the Hells Angels not once but twice. And Judge Conte was really down on the Hells Angels. He thought that we should have all been found guilty. Robert Mueller realized that the way the Hells Angels was structured and the way we were presenting things to the jury, that they were never going to get a RICO charge. I mean, the case was a catastrophe. They bring in one of the paid witnesses, and this guy became a government informant to extract himself out of his own problem, plus to receive some financial money for his testimony. And he comes into the courtroom, and the defense attorneys start questioning him, and they said, you did business with this guy, right? And they said, yes, we did. How many times? He goes to his testimony, and they said, we'd like, is he in the courtroom today? He says, yes, he is. We'd like you to point him out. The paid informant identifies Tony Serra. Now, Tony Serra is not a Hells Angel. Tony Serra is one of our defense attorneys. But what he doesn't know about Tony Serra is a guy with really long hair. Looks kind of like he could be a hippie or a biker. And he identifies Tony Serra as the guy he's been doing business with for the last 3 or 4 days. The courtroom erupts and everybody goes crazy. And then the guy admits, I've never done business with the Hells Angels. The government offered me money, and they said I could get out of jail if I testified. So you had situations like that happening. These guys, they become so zealot in their quest to find the Hells Angels guilty, or anybody for that matter, that they become blinded. And justice does not get served. And I just, and maybe it's unfair for me. I keep thinking, I think about you as a SEAL. I think about you, what I know about your past. You understand these things, that things like this happen. It's not what is what's his name saying in that movie? It's not what you know; it's what you can prove.
We didn't have these problems. We did not have these problems in the SEAL teams.
You did not.
People killing each other?
Yeah. No.
I can't say never, but not often.
Yeah.
There's been some incidents. But, I mean, is the president of the Ventura, I mean, how many people are under you?
How
many people are in that chapter?
Well, it's at 25. 25 members at its peak. But what you have to understand, you got 25 members. Like, a lot of people go, 25 members, that's not very big. Well, that's pretty big for a Hells Angel charter. And what you have to understand, each guy that is in the club probably has 5 to 10 people that follow him and will do anything for him because he holds that position of prestige. In that, where a lot of people go, well, that's not prestige. Well, in the outlaw bike world, being a Hells Angel is a very prestigious position.
Gotcha. And so I'm just curious, is the president of that club, and you have all this inner, I don't know what to call it. I guess it's not inner club, but Hells Angel on Hells Angel killing.
Right.
I mean, what is going through your head? What are you telling your guys? I would imagine that would be mass confusion.
Yeah, it's paranoia.
It's friendly. It's friendlies killing friendlies.
And what you
so
do,
you have no fucking friends.
No, and it becomes, and this is, I think, how the outlaw bike culture made a 180-degree turn. You sit in a room with somebody, and do you know who Jay Dobbins is?
No.
Jay Dobbins. If Jay Dobbins was here, I like Jay. He's a ATF. He infiltrated the Hells Angels.
Okay, I know who this guy is. Yeah.
Now, if Jay Dobbins was sitting here, he would say, everything I've said, he would say is bullshit. But that doesn't mean I don't like Jay. I like Jay. He just have a different perception of the Hells Angels. I think that guys like Jay Dobbins were amazingly effective because, and I don't know if the government realized it at the time, they didn't get a lot of convictions. They didn't get long sentences. But what they did to the Hells Angels and to people in the outlaw bike world in that culture that are in the 1%er type clubs, they put doubt and confusion into the room. Because you're sitting in that meeting room and you're looking around, you're going, and I think I said this earlier, you're going to go, who's going to roll next? Mm-hmm. Who's going to make a deal? Who here is actually working with the cops, and who is actually working for the Hells Angels? It becomes confusing. Do you know who Anthony Tate is? Tony Tate? Tony Tate was a Hells Angel in Alaska, and he became an FBI informant. For no reason, he didn't get busted. He just decided he wanted to infiltrate the Hells Angels, and he went to the cops and goes, I think I can do this. And I think the cops kind of laughed at him at first, and then he started, making some progress. And the FBI, this was with the local cops in Alaska, and then the FBI came in it, and they basically promoted him as a Hells Angel, helped him rise up in the ranks. He became West Coast Secretary. No, not West Coast Secretary, West Coast Chairman. Well, him and I sat in a meeting one time.
What's the West Coast Chairman?
I'm not West Coast chairman. He became the sergeant at arms. I was the West Coast chairman. I was the guy that kind of officiated the meetings, kept the,
All of the West Coast?
yeah. Yeah.
So then there is some type of a hierarchy.
Well, it is, but it's an unofficial capacity.
Okay.
You know, it's not like, it doesn't give me any power to, okay, you're going to do
Okay.
this. And
You're an organizer.
Yes. You know, I'm facilitating the meeting. I'm keeping the meeting on point and trying to keep any discussion of anything illegal out of the room. Because despite what people think, if you start talking about illegal activities in an official Hell's Angel meeting, you're going to be asked to stop or escorted out of the room. So Tony Tate's sitting next to me. Anybody that wants to look this stuff up, they can look up Tony Tate. He was a FBI informant. He was a Hell's Angel. Pretty effective as a informant. He's sitting next to me in a meeting. On his left arm, he's got a cast. And I look at the cast, and it's brand spanking new. It's white. You know what a brand new cast looks like. Well, imagine you're an outlaw biker, and you've got a cast on your arm, and it's just pristine white. It made me very suspicious. I never liked Tony to begin with, but it made me very suspicious looking at the cast. Well, inside the cast was a bug, and he was trying to lead me into a conversation. He wanted to blow up the outlaws in Kentucky, and he basically brought his request to a meeting, and you know, there was like probably 12 Hell's Angel presidents from the West Coast into this meeting, and if you know we would have got engaged in a conversation of killing these guys, it would have been a conspiracy beef. You know, I had enough insight and intuitive feeling that the guy was no good that I steered the conversation off. Confronted him about his cast, why he didn't have any road rash. He left the meeting, went to Sonny's house. They had got suspicious going, this cast isn't going to work. They knocked his cast off, and they put the bug inside a new device that was just kind of coming up on the scene. And you're going to laugh when I say it's called a pager. And so this gives you a time frame. So Tony goes to Sonny's house, and he's got this pager on, and he's got a bug in it. And the ironic thing is he's at Sonny's house, and he gets a page, and it's his handler. And this isn't stuff I'm just making up. This stuff, you can research this stuff. It's all out there on the computers. It all became part of a case in Kentucky, a conspiracy case, murder case in Kentucky. He's asked Sonny, he goes, oh, I'm on call for work. I got to, just let me call in real quick. And Sonny says, yeah, go ahead. Stuff's all recorded. He calls the feds, and they say, you got to get him to say this. And he hangs up the phone, takes the conversation, and guides it into this, I'm going to blow these guys up. I want to make sure it's okay with you. There's going to be a lot of collateral damage, saying things of that nature, very cavalier comments. And, you know, Sonny winds up getting a conspiracy to commit murder beef. The trial was in Kentucky. He did just about 4 years for that. And I think while Sonny was away in prison, he was in federal prison, the club went through a lot of changes, you know. And when he got back in the mid-'90s, I don't think he liked the direction the club was heading. And, you know, I kind of skipped here and I skipped there and patched it in, but you have to understand, Sonny got that cancer call. He relinquished his power. After he had done that, a couple of years later, he had this revelation that he wasn't going to die, and he wanted to take his power back. I don't know if you experienced that in any of the SEAL teams, but if somebody's a leader and then they relinquish their power, it's kind of tough to get it back. I know you guys are structured more where somebody has a rank, and in that rank is probably a description of what they can and can't do, and what they can and shouldn't do. But in the Hell's Angels, it's kind of a dog eat dog world. It's the strong survive, and I think that by the time Sonny came back from his last stay in prison, that was the last time he went to prison for any length of time. His power was very diminished.
Interesting. You'd think they would have more respect for him.
Well, I think he was respected, but you have to understand, Sonny was taking the position that Tony Tate was the Hell's Angel of the future, and that's how he was introducing him to people. He was referring to him as the Hell's Angel of the future, and he really was somebody that created chaos and not good.
How so? How would he do that?
Well, he set up. Sonny went to prison. Irish O'Farrell.
He's the one that did it.
He's the one that did it.
Oh shit!
And he was introducing him as the Hell's Angel of the future.
Wow.
It was a misjudgment. So what happens is people look at him as a leader and go,
I see.
Maybe he's slipping a little bit. I'm sure you've been in situations where you've got somebody in a leadership position, maybe making a questionable call. You guys probably got to look at each other and go, is this right or wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine you guys following somebody blindly.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. How did you become, one thing that we didn't cover is how you became the president so fast. What was it about you that you think the guys respected?
You know what I think it was? I think a lot of it had to do with the structure in my life, and I attribute that to the Marines, to the Department of Defense, my martial arts training. I was, really disciplined. I'd like to party, but I was strictly a recreational drug user. I'd never had a drug problem. I could walk away from the party on Sunday morning and not worry about partying again till the next party showed up. I didn't go looking for the party. If I came upon a party and I wanted to participate, I did. But that's a real luxury when you live in that world. I don't know what was going on in the military, but I think there was a point in time narcotics were becoming a problem. Yeah, true or not?
I mean, I think narcotics are always a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and it became a problem in the Hells Angels. I think that probably one of the worst things that ever happened to the Hells Angels and the outlaw bike culture was meth. I mean, it's a mind-altering, physical and emotional drug. People think they have this unlimited power and control, and the reality is it chips away at you.
This actually does not sound very similar to the military at all,
No?
to be honest.
Okay, well, I don't know. I mean,
what are the revenue streams?
revenue streams
club.
are personal, private little cartels that people set up themselves. Tony Tate. The FBI professed that Tony Tate was very, very successful in infiltrating the Hells Angels and setting Hells Angels up. The reality is he had access to people in Canada, people in Europe, people across the United States. And after like a 3-year investigation, I think he busted with serious offenses, maybe 10, 13 guys. I mean, that's not a lot of people that if their contention is you're controlling the methamphetamine market and you are living off this, you can only get 13 guys. I think the people that were making the big money, they didn't want to share it with anybody. That's why my contention has always been we're not a criminal organization. It's an organization saturated with criminals, independent from the structure of the club. The structure of the club is about brotherhood, motorcycles, and riding, but it certainly taken its toll. It's eroding. It was eroding. That's one of the reasons I left.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, then revenue streams, So you have your club members.
Right.
The club needs money, but maybe the club doesn't necessarily know where the money's coming from. So then you have all the members of the club running their own extracurricular businesses.
The ones
which
that
happen
want to
be-
participate, a lot of the guys work. You got to be fair about that. A lot of the guys work. They're construction guys. They're truck drivers. But there's a lot of them that are hustlers.
So how does the club make money? Do they
How does
take
the
a
club make
percentage
money?
of
It
each
dues,
member's?
it's dues. The government makes allegations the club is worth billions and millions. Well, perhaps there's that kind of money running through a particular group of individuals, but the club is a nonprofit organization. It's registered with the United States government as a nonprofit organization. They don't make money off their trademark. So it's very complex issues, and the club was very simple at one time. You got a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
You came to the bar. You went to the Kern River. You went to Bass Lake. You hung out at the fire. You had a beef with somebody. You got it off your chest. Perhaps maybe you threw blows. Nobody went and got a gun. Nobody went and got a knife. Nobody went and got bullets. The worst thing was, you got to buy breakfast, man.
Yeah.
You lost the tussle, and
That's how it was when you went in.
Yeah, and it's made
shit.
this transition that nobody trusts anybody. Look, Shawn, you're sitting in a room with a bunch of guys. Imagine being in a room with some guys. It's probably like going out on a mission.
I used to work for the CIA.
I know you do.
So I get being in a room full of people you don't fucking trust.
Yeah, but this is the thing, and maybe this is the proper way to explain it. You go from a group of SEALs you're on a mission with. You love these guys. You believe in these guys. You know you can count on these guys. You may not agree with all of them all the time, but you know they're there when the shit comes down. And then you make a transition. You're trying to accomplish the same thing, but now you're in a room of people you're not sure where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a slippery slope. Like the end, for me, it was a 2 years, man.
If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know this is something I care about. We've had regenerative farmers and health experts on. We've talked about soil health, clean water, glyphosate, food security, and how disconnected most Americans are from where their food actually comes from. Might be time to start paying some attention. We've talked about foreign ownership of American farmland, China. We even did an episode that called out the government for selling off public lands in Utah. And when you start looking at all of it together, you realize there's a lot going on between the land, the food supply, and the people who are actually trying to produce real food in this country. And that's why I trust Moink. Moink was started by Lucinda, an 8th-generation family farmer, to help small, independent family farms ship high-quality meat directly to your door. We're talking wild-caught salmon, grass-fed and grass-finished beef, pasture-raised pork, grass-fed lamb, and pasture-raised chicken. And this is the kind of meat you actually want to feed your family. It's antibiotic-free, they do not use growth hormones, and they do not feed GMO grains. And they're not adding solutions to the chicken or sugar to the bacon. Moink connects you back to the source. You're not just buying meat from some giant supply chain and hoping for the best. You're supporting independent family farms that care about the land, the animals, and the quality of the food they produce. When you purchase from Moink, you're not just getting better meat for your family. You're making a real, meaningful impact on family farms all across America. Please give it a try. Join the mission to fight for the family farm, because you know what? They fight for us. Go to moinkbox.com/SRS and get free chicken wings in every box for a year, as long as you're a paying customer. That's moinkbox.com/SRS. As you guys know, once upon a time, I was a Navy SEAL, and then I contracted for CIA. We were hunting ISIS, Taliban, terrorist organizations. China was there, Russia was there, the Iranians were there, and everybody's kind of collecting on each other. One thing I learned is how important encryption and protecting your data is. That experience has just always made me extremely paranoid about what's being sucked out of my phone, what information are people getting. I wanted something that could protect everybody. And so we turned it into an application. We call it the Glacier app. We have secure DNS. Now, what's secure DNS? Well, very simply put, secure DNS keeps your phone from being exploited while you're browsing the internet. Just a couple of buttons, your phone's protected, you got yourself a burner number or more. You hit connect, done. You're protected. This is like the real James Bond shit. MI6, CIA level stuff made in the US. TheGlacierApp.com, or just go on the App Store and look up the Glacier app. Take your privacy back. Download Glacier today. Let's go back to right before the break. We were talking about how do the clubs make money.
Okay.
You had mentioned nonprofit. I'm curious, why were the clubs set up to be nonprofits? Were all the chapters nonprofits?
Well, the club, the Hells Angels name, the logo is, people claim this, and I think there's a lot of merit to it, that the Hells Angels brand is one of the most powerful and recognized brands in existence. Whether that's true or not, I guess that's up for debate. When we established in the late 70s, we thought we got to establish a trademark board. We've got to protect our trademark. I was on the board. A gentleman I do not get along with to this day, Flash, was on the board. Done a lot for the club, did a lot for the trademark. I'm not going to take that away from him. Irish was on the trademark board. Irish was murdered. Different individuals. I think there might have been 7 or 8 of us initially on the board. We used Limbach, and Sutton, some very powerful trademark attorneys on the West Coast. They were located up in the Bay Area, and they handled, I may have some of these wrong, but I don't think so. They handled Levi Strauss. I know that one for sure. Coca-Cola, perhaps Pepsi-Cola, MasterCard. The rest of them I couldn't really remember. They were insignificant to me. And the Hells Angels. So you had these trademark lawyers representing these powerful trademarks, recognizable trademarks, Levi trademark, the MasterCard, whatever it may be. I get a phone call from Mr. Sutton. He says, "George, I'd like to talk to you." And I said, "Well, I'm in Southern California. I got it." He goes, "It's very important you come up here. I want no misunderstandings. I want to tell you something." So, I'm going, this is not going to be good. So I go up there. This is back, like I say, in early 80s. You could fly to San Francisco for $30. There's a plane every 45 minutes, there and then one back. So I jump on a plane, I go up there, and Mr. Sutton says that the other trademark brands have discovered they're also representing the Hells Angels. And he said they don't want their trademark brushing up against yours because it's not a good image. The Hells Angels don't have a good image. And I mean, how can you argue with them? You can't really. And I understood, but they helped us set it up. So it was a nonprofit organization. And the idea really was, it was about protecting the trademark, because what happens is when you have a powerful trademark and you don't use it, people will start doing like what they consider fair use. And then ultimately they'll claim you've abandoned your trademark because you're not using it Well, you know, the American government's set up as a capitalist. You're not using it in a monetary manner, and they'll try to take your trademark over. It's very complicated. I don't understand it all, but I know Mr. Sutton is the guy I dealt with most of the time, and he taught me several things about trademark. And so you got to control the narrative. You know, what does your trademark stand for, and what does it mean? You got to control the narrative. You have to protect it from people infringing on it. And if you don't do that, that's how you lose control of your trademark. It's just like, are you familiar with the JKD, Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's martial art thing?
What about it?
Well, their family didn't protect the trademark, and they lost control of the logo. And the JKD thing, it's people can use it. It's fair use is what they call it. And that's what we were trying to avoid with the Hells Angels. We were trying to make sure that the trademark was protected. It was set up as a nonprofit organization. I'll give you an example. In the mid 80s, Marvel Comics made a Hells Angel cartoon book. We immediately got it shut down, and we protected our trademark. We sued them. They settled out of court for, I think, $60,000. We gave the money to Ronald McDonald House, Cancer for Children, because we're a nonprofit. We couldn't profit from our logo, but we could protect our logo. But if we received any money, we had to give it away. Another thing is, you know who Roger Corman was? No. Roger Corman was, remember all the B movies in the 60s and 70s? Well, you're too young.
82.
Huh? Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about that. Roger Corman did all the B movies with, these were upcoming stars. Like, one of his directors was Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Jack Nicholson, Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper. These are guys that all starred in his films. He made a movie called Nom Angels, and he used our logo. We sued him and beat him in court. And, like, they paid us, but we had to use the money not in a profitable way. We gave some of it away. I can't remember what we did. I remember he gave us $60,000 for infringing on our trademark. And these are the kind of things you have to do to protect your trademark. But that has nothing to do. I know what you're thinking about, your question is, what type of money are you bringing in as a club? Are you talking about street money, illicit money?
I'm talking about any
money.
Where do you get the money for the building? Where do you get the money to throw parties? Where do you get the money to have a warehouse full of guns, dynamite, and bombs and machine guns?
The dynamite was stolen.
Okay.
I'm being a smartass, but I'm being serious. The dynamite was stolen. But okay, I'll give you an example. We started doing benefit, like dances and parties and whatnot, at the Ventura clubhouse. And the capacity of that place, including the yard, we'd probably get 500 people there. And we would charge $5 an entry fee, and then we would raffle off things. We would buy raffle tickets, and you get a drawing, you win a leather coat, or you win case of oil, whatever it may be. You sell shots of liquor behind the bar. You sell hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever it may be, and we made a lot of money that way. I personally felt like by the mid '80s, after all these guys got arrested by Tony Tate, that dealing drugs, man, it was a kind of a dead end. Everybody's going to get busted, and So in Ventura, I suggested there was a few busts in Ventura, but they weren't real successful. They came after me in 2001, but I mean the case collapsed. You know, they couldn't prove anything. Were there people in the club selling drugs? Yeah, they were selling Vicodin. They were getting Vicodin from an airman named Joshua Adams. My son was involved in that, Georgie. Joshua Adams, Georgie, Julio Batillo was another guy. He was in a gang called Avenue Gangsters, and a couple of Ventura Hells Angels. But out of 25 guys, you had 2 Hells Angels, and the rest were just associate guys getting involved. And I think it adds substance to my argument that people do illegal things, but they confine it to themselves because they want to keep the money. They don't want to risk their freedom and their ass and make $100,000 and then bring it in and turn it over to the club, and have to share it with people that didn't. I mean, it's just
It's
greed.
interesting.
Yeah, it's greed is what it is.
So if money was not an issue and the club is a nonprofit, I mean, where does the power struggle come in? Because that's obvious. I mean, it has to be.
Well, I think
When you're talking about the 70s and all the inner club murders and assassinations and all the shit that's happening, what's motivating that? Because there's not. It can't. It's.
No, I think it is money.
There's no money then.
I think it's money, but look. I never got deep enough into the military to understand jealousies and personality conflicts. It was, my attitude of the military was, you have an MOS, you fulfill that job, you take your orders. Some of them I didn't like, but in an outlaw type structure, I mean, you've got people making moves, trying to control power, trying to control areas. You've got the dynamics, of who has more power, me or him. It's kind of like, whose dick's bigger. It's kind of that male mentality, I think, and I think that.
So it's very primitive thinking.
Yeah, well,
It's not motivated by.
It's a primitive culture.
Because I mean, I don't even understand how you would take over a territory if you do not have the funds to get what you need to do to enable that.
Well, when you say take over a territory, are you talking about narcotics trade? Are you talking about perceived power? Are you talking about real power?
I don't know. I mean, whatever you're talking about.
Well,
I mean, if you're saying that a lot of the guys in the clubs had regular jobs.
They did.
And then we're talking about taking over a territory. When I think about taking over a territory, I think I think of gang wars, some type of.
You're thinking of military takeover, are you?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, maybe you could do it psychologically. You could do it brute force. But
perhaps a combination of.
But it would take money, right? I mean, even if you'd have to pay your guy. I would think that would be a full-time thing. Hey, we're going to take this fucking territory. You guys are going to have to take off work. Well, then how are they going to make a living?
Well, it doesn't work that way. But, that's certainly a legitimate question.
You're going to need guns. You're going to need logistics.
Right.
Logistics costs money.
Right. That's true. But if you're living in a small town, you live in the town of Ventura, we come into the town of Ventura, there's 8 bike clubs there. Let me see, let's count them. There's the Molochs, the Mongols, the Carnalas, the Syndicate, the Question Marks, who I'm friends with at the time, and the Orphans. So that's 7 clubs there. And you just slowly run everybody out of town. I mean, that's basically what we did. And it wasn't to control the narcotics. It was to control what was going to transpire in that town, who was going to come in that town, who was going to be allowed in that town. And it sounds like perhaps a lot of bullshit, but it's not. I mean, You mentioned the term primitive. I think the outlaw bike culture is very primitive, and there's a lot of instincts going on. It's like in 1987 when I came back from prison, I learned something that was really unique, and it just resonated with me. The day I got to prison, I mentioned Guy Castiglione earlier, that he'd killed Redbeard and Jingles, remember, the Mongols? So I go down to prison. Guys are there at Terminal Island Prison. This is before they had the holding centers. If you got a beef in the feds, you went right to the prison in Terminal Island, and then you went back and forth between court and the prison until your case was resolved, and then they send you off to a particular location. But when I got there, I asked Guy, I said, hey, Guy, who do we have a problem with in here? And Guy said, we don't fight with anybody in here. Now, this is the war with the Mongols was going. We had a problem with outlaws back east. We had on and off problems with the banditos, constant problem with the pagans. But when I asked him that question, he kind of startled me and said, well, we don't fight in prison. And I'd never been to prison before. And I said, what do you mean we don't fight in prison? He goes, we don't fight in prison. And so what there was a unwritten rule of, nonviolence. So when I came home from prison, I wanted to apply that on the street. I thought, well, if we're fighting on the street, but we're not fighting in prison, it would make more sense to me that we would be able to interact with each other if we're on the street with all the luxuries of everything we have, our bikes, our women, the drugs that people want, the alcohol, the party scene, or whatever. Why couldn't we apply that to the everyday lifestyle of the outlaw biker? And I started petitioning people, I set up a meeting with the outlaws, set up a meeting with the banditos, set up a meeting with the Mongols, eventually got an amnesty on the violence with everybody that lasted till 2002. And it kind of all unraveled. But that position is not popular in the outlaw bike culture. They see it as a position of weakness. To me, to petition people in the Hells Angels and the Outlaws and these other organizations to not be violent, it takes more nerve than the act of violence. It's, your manhood's getting questioned, your loyalty's getting questioned. You got all these things going on. And I had some really interesting dialogue with the leader of the Banditos, a guy, Harry Bowman, George Weggers, international leader of the Banditos. These were people that wanted to hold on to their power. These are guys now, you talk about structure. These are clubs that hold absolute power. The leaders do. And both leaders of these clubs, one of them's in jail doing life. The other guy, Taco, died in jail because the racketeering law worked on them because of the way they were structured.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I think the bike culture at large is very primitive in its thinking. It's very primal. And you start fighting. It's pretty easy to get along with people in the 60s. You see another guy on an outlaw type look with his bike, and even if he might be in a club, you kind of want to hang out with him. You kind of want to stop, talk to him. Hey, you broke down, you need anything? That was kind of the essence of the lifestyle. Then the 70s come, and it gets a little bit tense. The war with the outlaws breaks out back east. By 1977, the war with the Mongols breaks out in the west. And you can't, you can feel the shift. You ever feel the shift in something? Yeah, you feel the shift and you go, what's going on here? And it just ultimately changes and changes and changes and unravels until 1986. I go, when are we going to end these wars? Why are we fighting all these battles? Not only are they not productive, they're endless. And, you know, you as a military man, when you guys go into someplace, you have an objective, right? Mm-hmm. You're trying to achieve something. And I used to ask people, I go, this is like these wars that we're involved with. They're like a train with no destination.
Man, I was just going to ask you that.
There's no destination. And I'm trying to reason with people. So I'm in a dialogue with Sonny. I've worked something out with the Banditos on territory. We'll stay in these areas. They'll stay in their area. There'll be no issues, no pushing and pulling. And, you know, I go to Sonny, and this is an open meeting with, 12, 15 leaders in there from different charters. And I say, look, I want to meet with the Banditos. And I said, I want to take you with me. I said, if Sonny Barger shows up at this meeting, they'll know I'm in earnest. And I go, we'll be able to negotiate and get whatever we want because I got the man with me, Sonny Barger. And he wouldn't go. And I said, well, at least give me a reason why you won't do it. And he said, because I just don't fucking like him. And I think what it really was about, he just maybe liked the violence. I don't know. It's. I mean, how do you explain something like that? Yeah. It's very primitive.
It's ego.
Yeah, a lot of ego.
It's the inability to change your fucking mind.
And why is that?
Because you're worried about what everybody else thinks.
Exactly. Yeah, it's absolutely, and it's is that like the guy that discovers the other tribe with a cave, going, yeah, that looks a lot more comfortable than standing out in the rain. Mm-hmm. And so what do? They decide, we're going to get Joe and Harry and Bill. We're going to go over and maybe we'll act like we're going to be friends with them, and we'll beat them with our clubs that they've never seen before because they've never seen weapons. I mean, I don't know. I can only speculate how this stuff happens, and I find it fascinating because I've been in the middle of it, and I watch people and I know how they think, and sometimes people are just unpredictable. You think you've figured them out, and then something happens and they go sideways. And you don't know
did why. You total just popped in my head. You're in this through Vietnam,
right?
And I think I don't know about today, but there was a lot of draw. There was a lot of interest in biker clubs from my generation coming home from war. A lot of interest. Vietnam sounds like there was even more interest.
Right.
And I think those are some of the baddest motherfuckers on the planet, the guys that served in Vietnam.
Right.
Did you have a lot of those guys coming in?
We had some, not a lot. I think by then...
Did they have a...
They had their own club.
They did?
The Vietnam vets. They started their own club. And we were never at odds with them, but we never got close to them. But, I used to argue with Sonny all the time about certain things, but Sonny sometimes would say the most profound things. And when kind of had free reign, and I mentioned that earlier, we were kind of the kings, the Hells Angels, man. Everybody knew who the Hells Angels were. The Hells Angels were in the paper all the time. Hells Angels had movies made about them. Hells Angel this, Hells Angel that. And perception perceived, perception achieved, if you will. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Sometimes people think you're tough.
Perception is reality.
Yeah, they think you're tough because that's what they read in the paper and that's how it's perceived on a movie. But you've got these guys coming back from Vietnam and they're going, fuck those guys, man. I'm not going to do what they say. And Sonny and I got in a big dialogue about it one time. We were both on the same page. We weren't arguing. He goes, you know, fucking Vietnam changed everything. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, why are you laughing?
I'm looking forward to hearing where you go with this.
Yeah, and I said, what do you mean? And he goes, before the war, he goes, we told people to do shit, they just did it. He goes, now they're, oh yeah, get off your fat ass and make us. And that was basically it. There was a lot of people that got military training. And, you know, we talked about our roots were within the military, but it became diluted over a period of time. Now you've got a bunch of guys that have gone off to war. Sonny was smart enough to know all that. Do you remember when Sonny Barger announced to President Johnson he wanted to send a squad of Hell's Angels? You know, he wanted them to be trained and all that stuff. Look, Sonny's smart enough to know that was never going to happen. But, God damn, it was great publicity. I mean, you know, it was all over the news and, you know, talk about controlling the narrative. I mean, Sonny knew how to control the narrative. You know, it wasn't real sophisticated, but some of the stuff he came up with, it was sort of brilliant, you know. But I think the Vietnam War changed a lot of things in this country as far as people doing something. Then you have to understand, and I'm speaking from experience as an old man. Okay, I'm almost 80. I'm going to be 80 here in a year, a little over a year. People come back from Vietnam. It was a very unpopular war. Now, you're a military man, so you know and you respect all those people that were in country. But there were a lot of people in the United States that didn't find them very attractive, didn't find them very heroic, and it was wrong. Mm-hmm. But you guys came back from the United States getting attacked at 9/11, and it's a whole different ballgame, man. I mean, you had it was almost like the country was unified in its...
At the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning. But it all gets diluted.
But it never got as bad as Vietnam coming home. Not even fucking close. But it did.
Yeah, I get
very
it.
underappreciated.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Before you guys go into combat, I don't know if this is true. I have a couple of friends that are SEALs, ex-SEALs actually. Did they used to give you guys a psychological evaluation?
Every time?
Before you went into combat?
No.
And initially?
Initially, to get into the teams.
Yeah. Did they give you one after your missions?
No.
When you came back? That's the thing that kind of alarmed me, that they put you guys in these precarious, awkward positions, and you come back, and it's like, I mean, what do they do for you? And you know, my daughter goes to...
They don't do anything.
My daughter goes to my daughter's a lawyer, and she takes advantage of military, I can't remember, veterans court, or it's a special court. It's a criminal court.
Veterans
civilian.
Court. Yeah.
What's that?
Veterans court.
Yeah, and she's used it several times, and it's beneficial for the veterans. But it appears that bring these people back and just kind of turn them loose, and I'm going to take a chance here and equate this together. I'm sure some people out there are going to go, this is bullshit. But I'll tell you, when I came back from prison, and so in 2007, there was a two firebombings at tattoo shops in Ventura. Of course, they said I was responsible. I gave the order. I certainly didn't do it, but I gave the order. By 2011, I get indicted. 2013, we start going to trial. The case starts collapsing. My daughter's like hammering away at stuff with another lawyer. They offer a sweet deal. I take the deal because I'm on counts 6, 7, and 8. I'm looking at mandatory minimums of life, and you know what that sentences. You know, you get found guilty in one of those counts, you go to prison for life. It's just a mandatory sentence. So I now come back. It's 2014 or 2015, and I stay on parole or probation, whatever you want to call it. Feds changed it. They don't call it parole anymore. They call it probation. Stay on probation until 2018. So that's 11 years. You've got the investigation going on. You know, the cops are crawling around. They're investigating you. They're asking questions. Then you get the beef. Then you've got the pending trial. Then you do your sentence, and then you come home and do your probation, parole, whatever you want to call it. Not once did they ever ask me how my re-entry into society was. All they wanted to do and all their interest was, they thought I had a bunch of money hidden somewhere. They were looking for the money, and they wanted their fair share of any money I had, any money I made. I did a show, Outlaw Chronicles. They wanted to take all my money. They said I shouldn't profit off my criminal past. You know, you can imagine what they were saying.
Who is this? Who is they?
United States Probation Office. So they never once asked me. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, you know, I don't know what the count is now. What is it? Over a quarter million people incarcerated in the United States.
I actually.
I mean, it's a big business, you know. And what's interesting is everybody and each family. It seems at one time people didn't talk about a family member going to prison. It was kind of embarrassing. It's now. It seems like every family's at least got one family member that went to prison for something, because it's become such a big business. I guess I'm just using this platform to complain that, you know, they put people in a position, they put you guys in a position, like I said, you come back, I mean, you just went over there, you engaged some people, you know, I don't know what you did or didn't do. How does that affect you guys?
I mean, it's out. It's horrible. I mean,
yeah,
it is I mean, the suicide rate is insane. The divorce rate is insane. The addiction rate is fucking insane. I mean, but I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think that
no, it's not.
I think that the country literally just doesn't give a fuck about veterans, and they've proven that over and over and over since fucking World War II. They just don't. The country doesn't give a fuck. The government doesn't give a fuck. The people don't give a fuck.
So,
if they did, it wouldn't be this way.
Okay, so we've got a 98% conviction rate with the feds, and I don't want to insult anybody. I'm not comparing ex-convicts to military or whatever. Trying to make I'm trying to make a comparison here, but not that in the same manner that some people may misinterpret it. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. The conviction rate is 98%. That's pretty goddamn high. And, you know, the feds, there's a lot of veterans in federal prison for just various things. A lot of people said they've been put in scams like selling them weapons, doing this, doing that. I was in Texas. There was a couple of Navy SEALs down there. I didn't get close to them. I don't know what they were there for. Didn't ask. You don't ask people what they're doing. But why are the prisons so full? And I think a lot of it is, in 1986, I fought my case. I pled not guilty, and I fought my case, and I beat it. I proved that the government framed me. The jury came back and said they wanted to send a message to Washington to knock this shit off. In 2013, my daughter and I, you know, we talked it over. She didn't think she could win the case. She goes, I think because of the publicity, I think because the outlaw bike movement has gotten so big and it's a worldwide phenomena, she goes, I don't think you're going to get a fair trial. And she goes, we got to hammer at these guys, chip them away to where they offer you a deal. And I think that's why the prisons are so full. And, you know, what point am I trying to make? I guess I'm just getting on a soapbox here a little bit. And
I know it's something you're very passionate about.
yeah, you know, it's, you know, people don't get it. You know, I had a prison, I'm an expert witness in trials for the defense, something that defense lawyers never had in the outlaw bike cases. I also had a prison consulting business, and, you know, I would try to help people come to terms with what was going on in their life. And, you know, I have this story I tell. I had a guy call me one day. He was a client of mine, and I tried to touch base with him, you know, 2 or 3 times a week. And every time he went to court, and when he got done with court, if I wasn't in court with him, sometimes it wasn't good for me to appear in court with him, because in California I'm very recognizable, and especially law enforcement, it's not appropriate. And he was really down, and I said, "What's the problem?" You know, and he goes, "Well, you know, George, they're treating me like a criminal." And I said, "You are a criminal." And that, I think sometimes people just can't come to terms with the situations they put themselves in. Now, I don't know what it is for vets. I tell you, if I had all the money in the world, that's probably what I would focus on: vets and dogs, because I love my animals. But, I mean, I had to make this guy understand, you know, they're treating him like a criminal because he embezzled a bunch of money from a movie company. And I don't know, I just don't know where we're heading as a country, that's all. I guess I'm just venting a little bit.
I think a lot of people are wondering where we're heading as a country, and I think they've been thinking that for a long damn time.
Yeah.
But
well, you know, it's like I was successful for about a decade in having an amnesty, you know, got along with the outlaws, got along with the banditos. It was a war, and are you familiar with the Nordic Bike War?
no,
It was just a hellacious war between the Hells Angels and banditos in Europe. I was instrumental in, along with George Weggers, the international president of the banditos, in stopping that. The Scandinavian governments, the Danish government specifically, petitioned the United States government. They wanted 2 felons to be allowed permission to enter the United States, so George Weggers and I could sit with them and try to negotiate a peace. And the Hells Angel representative, his name was Blondie. I don't know his real name. I can't remember it. He was a convicted double murderer. The Scandinavian government convinced the American government to let him enter into the United States and come to this meeting. The Bandito representative was a guy named Jim Tinian, I think. He was the international leader of the Banditos in Europe. So we had George Weggers, myself, Blondie, and Jim, and we had a special number that if anybody in law enforcement interfered, we were to hand them the piece of paper, and there was I don't know who it was in Washington, but they would tell them to stand down and let us finish doing what we were doing. They had I don't know how long the visa was for. They had a special visa to get into the country, negotiate. They did, then they went back. And settled the war. They publicly met with the politicians and a lawyer, and it was crazy. They announced it over Danish TV that the war between the Hells Angels and Banditos was now over.
wow.
It was quite a scene, but everything seemed to be going. It was very unsteady. I was constantly negotiating with people, trying to go to Europe. I went to Europe one time. I went to Amsterdam. I was refused entry. They had a 5-day hold on me. I was meeting with the Banditos and Hells Angels over there, tried to put the lid. There were some fires that were trying to put them out. refused me entry, put me on a plane to send me back. Just by chance, I wound up in Texas, wound up meeting with the Banditos anyways. I met with them in Texas instead of Europe. I wanted to go to Europe because I thought it would be more effective. But so we had a amnesty on the violence with the outlaws, the Banditos, the Mongols. I was trying to negotiate with the pagans, but I never really got anywhere with them. They just had no interest in negotiating. And everything was shaky.
How would you negotiate?
How would I negotiate?
Yeah, what are you negotiating? Peace?
Peace. Stop the violence. When I ride through Chicago, is it really necessary to shoot at me? I'm on my bike. I'm riding from point A to point B. I'm not there. I'm not trying to set up a town, a charter. I'm not interfering in anything you guys got going. I'm just trying to get from one point to the other. And I was successful. But the bottom line is, we said earlier, it's primal. That whole outlaw culture is very primal. And people they just didn't want to be perceived as being weak. And I, just before the arrangement with the outlaws was suspended, and the peace talks were called off, I talked to Taco one day about it. And he said, George, he goes, I don't know how much longer I can do this. He goes, my position is threatened. There was an up-and-coming guy named Spike that basically told Taco that he was being perceived as weak by the club. And Spike must have been very convincing, because if you look up on the internet, United States of America versus Harry Bowman, you'll see that he put a murder contract on me. And they actually came to Ventura not once but twice. I think the first time was just surveillance. The second time they came there, to shoot me. Whatever reason, they didn't.
Why do you think they wanted to kill you?
I think that Spike was an ex-Ranger, Army Ranger, very aggressive guy. And I think he had his eye on Taco's job as international leader. And I think that he felt that this would solidify him, at least to put him up at the same level as Taco. Taco was a real ruthless guy. Him and I negotiated for probably 3 years. I met with him twice in person. I lost count of the phone calls I had with him. But Taco died of cancer in prison. They wouldn't even give him a compassionate leave to come home and die in his own bed. I mean, they let him die in prison. That's how much they disliked him. And Spike, I don't know if you want to call him, describe him as top lieutenant. He's doing life for racketeering. These guys just don't want to be perceived as weak. And, Taco said that to me. And I said, Taco, it's not a popular position in the world we live in. But I said, I think it's a necessary position. My thought is that every time we shoot at each other, or we get a case and somebody goes to prison or somebody gets killed, I mean, we don't win anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think the government wins. I think that, like I said, you talk to Jay Dobbins, he has a particular thought of what we're all about. He thinks we're all about crime and criminal activity. Thinks the club does it as a whole. I interviewed Jay myself, and we had a cordial conversation. But I don't agree with anything he says. I can't get him to concede that it's not the club. It's individuals in the club. The club wasn't established for that reason. The club was about riding and brotherhood and building motorcycles. And probably why I walked away, because we lost sight, somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely attracts a certain culture.
It does.
Aging is inevitable. And if you're anything like me, you feel it a little more every year. Sore knees, tight joints, recovery takes longer than it used to. We can't stop the clock, but we can take care of ourselves. That's why I take Bubs Naturals collagen peptides. I mix it into my tea every morning. It blends right in, no taste, no gritty texture. It's simple. I've been using Bubs collagen for a long time, and I genuinely notice the difference. My knees feel better, my skin looks better, I recover faster after workouts. I stick with Bubs because I trust the company. Their collagen is NSF certified for sport and sourced from grass-fed cattle. So it's clean, tested, and exactly what they say it is. And there's a bigger mission here. Bubs was founded in honor of Navy SEAL Glenn Bub Doherty. And 10% of all profits go towards helping veterans transition back to civilian life. So you're not just supporting your joints and recovery, you're supporting people who served this country. If you're ready to upgrade your daily routine with Bubs Naturals collagen, head to bubsnaturals.com/SRS and use code Shawn for 20% off your order. Again, that's bubsnaturals.com/SRS and use code Shawn for 20% off your order. Take care of your body. It's the only one you've got. Do you ever wonder what it takes to make an episode of The Shawn Ryan Show? In this exclusive studio tour, I'm taking you behind the scenes for an in-depth look at every part of the operation, from the editing room in the main studio to the spaces where we film range day, content, and more. You'll see how the show comes together, meet some of the people behind it, and get a closer look at the work that happens off camera. When you become a paid member of the SRS Patreon community, you get more than just the podcast. Watch new episodes early alongside other members. Join monthly live shows with guest Q&As and submit questions, just like you see on the show, for upcoming guests on the Protector tier. You'll also unlock exclusive range day videos, behind-the-scenes content, and premium ambience videos that you're not going to find anywhere else. Join the Patreon community today and get access to the full experience. What was it that made you walk away?
Sonny and I continually were fighting about protocol, rules. He was bending the rules. Every time I confront him, it would turn into a big chaotic scene. In 2002, had a member named Josh Harbor. He went to Cave Creek to party and have fun, and somebody killed him. And he was a Ventura Hells Angel. And word on the street through law enforcement was that that was a message to me from Sonny. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Sonny and I never had that conversation. But subsequently, 6 months later, 4 months later, one of Sonny's guys got murdered. And law enforcement said that was my answer. I think that was kind of the beginning of the end. It still took me like another 8 years, if you will. But I just felt like we were losing the sight of where we were trying to head. You know, it's like, and when you're a leader, you know, you want to reach a goal, you want to try to achieve something, and you have a vision, and if the people around you aren't sharing the vision anymore, you know, maybe you're not an effective leader anymore. You know, I think Sonny, I have a saying, you know, don't make yourself bigger than the position you hold. And I think Sonny did that. I think he lost a concept. He made himself very large.
Don't fall for your own bullshit.
Sonny had done several things that I didn't think was appropriate. You know, I confronted him. The club seemed to be divided. There's a lot of speculation from law enforcement. Who was really running the club? Was it me? Was it Sonny? And, you know,
You guys both in Ventura?
no, he was in Oakland, then he went to Arizona, then he returned to Oakland. pretty much did what he wanted.
Gotcha.
That was Sonny Barger, and love it, hate it, or condemn it. I mean, it just was what it was. And you knew he was going to do that.
True outlaw.
Yeah, absolutely. And I respected him for it, and I hated him for it at times because he didn't do what was best for the club. I felt like he did what was best for him. He was a type of guy, I'm sure you've ran into this in the military. You run into guys that will not reverse themselves. You can show them in black and white it's wrong. They will not accept responsibility. Probably around 2008, 2009, can't remember exactly where, I started thinking about maybe it's time, to move on, and there was one thing that kept stopping me, and it was my ego. Did I want to be the guy that used to be George Christie? And a really difficult time. I did it kind of without telling anybody. Didn't even discuss it with my son. Discuss it with nobody. I went to the meeting, explained what I was doing. First of all, they misunderstood. They thought I was stepping down as president. And I said, no, this is it for me. I've given you 40 years. It's time for me to move on. And I gave what I thought was a kind of a passionate speech. I said, we're fighting with the banditos again, fighting with the Mongols, we're fighting with the outlaws, fighting with the pagans. And now you guys want to fight the Vagos. This was a bike club we had gotten along with since the mid-'60s. And they wanted to fight these guys. And my position with them was when I get phone calls from another club and says, hey, what's the problem, George? We've always gotten along. Why is there an issue now? And we can't find a way to resolve the issues. That kind of makes me feel like we're being bullies. When you pick on somebody, whether you win or lose, when you pick on somebody, you're being a bully, So I just basically said, look, we're fighting wars on 4 fronts. Now we're going to have a 5th front with the Vagos. And I said, don't forget law enforcement. And I said, look, if you look at your history, when societies or cultures run out of people to fight, they turn inward. And I said, I don't want to be here for that. And I said, I think I'm played out. I give you guys 40 years. I'm going to move on. I took my patch off. I folded it up. I put it on the edge of the table by my chair where I sat. I had a chair at the kind of head of the room. And I remember I said, look, we've turned into the people we rebelled against. I go, we're not outlaws anymore. And I said, I want to get back to the roots, and this is what I'm going to do. But I said, I want you to keep in mind that you guys need to do something because there's going to be a problem in the future. About 4 weeks later, something transpired up in Reno, Nevada. Jethro, who's president of San Jose, who was a good friend of mine, got in an argument with one of the Vagos, and they shot him and killed him. So Jethro is now murdered by the Vagos, so it's a full-on war. At the funeral in San Jose, Steve, I think it was Ruiz, he was a Hell's Angel, and Steve Tossin, another Hell's Angel, who had a reputation of just being fierce as a fighter. And he started picking on Ruiz, telling Ruiz he was responsible for Jeff Pettigrew's murder, that he should have protected him better. He was the president. They started arguing, and Steve Tossin's reputation caught up with him. he punched Steve Ruiz, and Steve responded by shooting him 3 times. So you've got a funeral, 5,000 to 7,000 spectators. You got Hell's Angel being buried, had been murdered, and you've got 2 Hell's Angels now fighting who's responsible, and one of them gets murdered. It was just a chaotic scene. I wasn't there, but I'm told it was a chaotic scene. Ruiz snuck out of there somehow. They couldn't locate him. The police thought that perhaps Ruiz had got thrown in Jeff Pettigrew's gravesite, and they exhumed Jeff's body a couple of days later. They didn't open the casket, but they pulled the casket out, looked underneath it to make sure Ruiz wasn't there. Eventually, they arrested him 3 months later. So what I predicted basically came true. You know, was I happy about it? No, not happy at all. You know, Jeff was dead. Jethro Pettigrew. Jethro was dead. Steve was dead. Ruiz was going to go to prison for 3 years. He put on a defense because Steve Tossin, I said he had a fierce reputation. He had killed somebody with his bare hands before by punching him. He had hit a guy at a bar. He was a security guard at a bar. He hit a guy, and the guy died from the punch. So I left. I left in good standing. Within a couple of weeks, Sonny changed my status to out bad. Wouldn't allow anybody to communicate with me. And basically tried to cut off any influence he thought I still might have. And he attacked my character, and things slowly started unraveling for me. Made a deal, went to prison, pled guilty to one, what was it, account of interfering, you're going to love this, interfering in interstate commerce, you know, by firebombing. They said I ordered the firebombing. By firebombing the tattoo shops, I interfered in their ability to make money. So it's interfering in interstate commerce. It's a federal crime. I mean, it's kind of one of those.
Interesting.
What's that?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those racketeering crimes, but you know, you're not RICO'd. It's a federal crime. I went to jail. I came back. Sonny got word that the History Channel had approached me about doing a 6-episode series. Told me I couldn't do it. I did it. Told me I couldn't write a book. I did it. He threatened to sue St. Martin, the book publisher I did the book with, my first book, Exile. Just was real careful, you know, what we put in the book, what was said, what, you know, wasn't said. You know, the book was successful. Outlaw Chronicles was successful. I wrote a second book. Like I stated earlier, I wound up going to Spain. The book was optioned. And spent 3 years in Spain. I came back. I was single now. I married a girl that I'd known since I was 12. We're lifelong friends, and kind of started over. And I
want to ask you something.
Okay.
What do you think happens when you die?
What do I think happens when you die? In all honesty, I do not know. I believe in a higher power. I like to microdose, and I contemplate on where I'm going and what I'm doing. I think perhaps hell is here on Earth, or perhaps if you leave this planet and you're not satisfied with how you conducted yourself. I mean, even bad people have to have that little voice in their head telling them, "Hey, man, you're fucking up." You know, I just truly believe that. And the reason I believe that is interacting with all these men for decades, some of them very dangerous, and I think their biggest enemy most of the time was themselves. I don't know. What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Christian.
Oh, you're a Christian. There you go. Okay.
You go to heaven or you go to hell. That's about it.
Well, I'll tell you, I came back. I was very satisfied. Really, my wife and I were having a lot of fun. And I got a phone call. And that was the premise for this book, Crossing the Rubicon. I got a phone call from a club member. Club members aren't supposed to talk to me. And they can be punished by, an ass chewing all the way to being expelled from the club for communicating to me or with me. And the guy said, "Do you recognize my voice?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said something smart ass to him. He goes, "This is my rabbi." And he said, "Look, I called you." And he used the term, what his close friends used to call Ralph. Are you familiar with that? Sonny, his name is Ralph.
Okay.
So we would say, "Hey, Ralph," like if I was one to really be serious or brotherly, I go, "Ralph, I want to talk to you, man. I want you to listen to what I'm saying." So anyways, the person on the other end said, "If you're going to reconcile with Ralph," he goes, "you need to do it because he's not going to be around much longer." And I got up out of bed, made myself a cup of coffee, and I started thinking about all these decades of interacting with all these people. And in the morning, I started writing this book, and it took me 3 years. I wrote it, and the ending was true, but I felt it was soft. And I just said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to pull all the bullshit away." And because people ask, "Why didn't you go back, or why don't you try to reconcile?" And I explain all that in the ending of this book. But it's interesting that, you tell me you either go to heaven or you go to hell. And I'm not going to say what it is, but I have a message for Sonny at the end of the book. But anyways. So how did you become a Christian? That interests me.
How did I become a
Yeah.
Christian? That is a long story, but I was going through some serious internal battles.
With yourself?
Yeah. And
Crisis of conscience or emotional instability or
very troubled with the world.
okay.
Especially
Angry at the world or just
angry at the world, a lot to do with kids. I started diving into a lot of the shit that happens to kids sexually
okay.
and exploitation, trafficking,
Sure.
abuse,
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. And I got really deep into it. And then some of this minor in possession or minor attracted persons. Have you heard about this shit? There is a section of the country who wants to make people that are attracted to kids a condition, and they want to call them minor attracted persons.
And that makes it okay?
That makes it okay in their mind.
That's going to be a problem. Let me tell you.
So,
okay.
let me finish. So, now I still am very vocal about it, and I just didn't really see people doing anything. And a lot of the people that I respected leaned that way politically, and I just could not understand how you could be okay with that. And anyways, so having this internal battle in my head, and I had basically tried to convince myself, Shawn, if you're the only one out here fighting this shit, who fucking cares? maybe you're the one that's fucked up. Maybe you shouldn't be doing this shit. Maybe you should just let it happen. Not that I'm fucking stopping anything anyways, right? But it just really troubled me. And I just couldn't understand like how it was happening. And in short, I was on a hike and I had felt like had just surrendered my fucking soul to the devil, you know. But I didn't really believe at that time. And I walked through this gate. Me and my wife were on a vacation. I walked through this gate and this guy comes up to me and tries to talk to me. I don't want to talk to him. Obviously, I'm in a fucking mood, right? And I had smoked a joint before I went on this hike. I tried to calm myself down. That didn't do a damn
Nothing
thing.
was working. Huh?
And of course, my wife turns around and talks to him. And I'm like, fuck, you know, I just want to go to bed. And so I turn around and I look at him, and he fucking looked at me in the eyes, and he read every single thought from front to back in my fucking brain and articulated it and said, you don't need to be worrying about these kids. That's not your fucking problem. That's not your battle. And then he went through all the other things. There was stuff about trans kids. There was stuff about China. All these things were going on in my head. And after the first thing, I blanked out because I couldn't understand how
It's
another...
almost like it's too much information coming in.
I hadn't even articulated this shit to my wife.
Yeah.
And this guy's just yanking thought after thought after thought out
And
of
who
my
is this
head.
guy?
I've never seen him. Never seen him.
And haven't seen
We were
him
there
since.
for a week. And I was a SEAL. I contracted for CIA. I pay attention to security.
Sure.
And a lot of those guys that were working at that gate knew who I was from the podcast. So I had stopped and talked with them. Never saw this guy though. Knew the other ones. Never saw this
Never
guy.
saw him again.
Never saw him before. Never saw him again. This was the last night. So he reads my mind, legitimately reads my fucking mind. And I'm walking back to my bungalow and talking to my wife, and I'm freaking out because I tell her, I go, holy shit, I think that was fucking God talking to me. And before that, there's some other things that happened. I'll shorten it up a little bit though. 3 things happened. There was another guy, my best friend died of a heroin addiction. He was a SEAL. We contracted at CIA together. I didn't wind up joining a biker gang, obviously, but I did go down to Colombia and got really wrapped up into drugs down there. Right. And he was with me. And so anyways, point being, we were very, very close. He was my best friend. And but he was also always known as a protector. He was a pro hockey player before he was a SEAL. He was a SEAL. He was a CIA contractor. In each one of those segments of his life, everybody around him considered him to be a protector at every level. And I had tried to save his life. He had moved in with me, Obviously, how it ended. Anyways, we go there. I'm in this super vulnerable position. There's this guy running around all fucking week. He looks exactly like my best friend. If we go out in town, he was out in town. If we're on a hike, he's on a hike. It was really odd. If we're at the pool, he's at the pool. If we're at the fucking restaurant, he's somewhere in the restaurant. Turns out we'd been there all week. We walked back to the bungalow from the gate, maybe a 3 to 5 minute walk. The entire time we were there, it turns out there was only two rooms in this bungalow. It was like a duplex. He was in the other fucking side. It's the first time I'd seen him. So that was a sign. Then I walk in the room and I went there, and I don't really have many friends anymore, and especially here in town. And I had met another SEAL, and his name was Dan Cirillo. And me and him had a special bond. He owned a handful of hospitals and had a very successful security company. And I have this. And it was one of the only relationships I've ever had in town where I don't fucking need anything from you and you don't need anything from me, so we don't have to worry about the asks. And we can just sit down and be friends and not have to worry about what the fuck do you want from me. Well, he died. And that really bothered me because it was my only friend here.
Young guy?
No, old guy. Died, in my opinion, had a great death. Died on a hunting trip with his son. And, I mean, I wish he was still here, but if there's a way to go and you get,
I get it.
And anyway, so as soon as we walk in the hotel, me and my wife are having a discussion. My cell phone dings. I don't answer because I'm in this heavy discussion. Like, what the hell is going on? How did this guy just read my fucking mind? Check my phone afterwards. It's his daughter, who I'd never met, and she sent me a text that said that she had just walked into her dad's gun room for the first time since he had passed, and he was in there, and he told her that he wanted her to reach out to me because I was the person that had become the closest to him, and that I knew a side of him that she didn't know, and for those three things to all happen damn near simultaneously, literally within minutes of each other, I knew somebody was trying to fucking tell me something. And I could go on because the shit continues on, but it didn't continue on until I got home. So I started looking into some of the stuff that had happened. And I had called a friend of mine who wound up being a spiritual mentor of mine. His name's Eddie Penny. He was a SEAL Team 6 guy. And I'll send you the episode.
Okay.
And I served with him very briefly. I wouldn't say we were close. We did a deployment together. And then he went on to the development group. I hadn't heard from him for fucking probably 10, 15 years. Then I brought him on the show, and he talked about how he found faith. This guy, back when I knew him before, he's a fucking savage. Never in a million years would you think that would happen to this guy. And he told me this, and just like this, told me how it happened. And I released his episode on Christmas Eve. Every single person since him has brought up Christ one way or another for over a year. So I called him, and he started kind of telling me what some of this stuff means. And then my whole team here, turns out I didn't even know this, but my whole team here, very well versed in this. So it was almost like after that moment, I was just completely surrounded with people that could guide me in the right direction. I hope that happens for you.
Well, that would be nice. I'm thinking.
I heard you talk about microdosing.
Yeah.
I have another, I don't know how seriously you take psychedelics or if you even do plant medicine, but I have another best friend. So when I go do that, I always have an intention that I want to get out of it if I do a heavy dose. And I did a journey with another one of my best friends. His name was Nick Kefalides, and he's still a good friend of mine. He was a MARSOC Marine Raider. And we did a journey together out in the woods several years ago. And I asked him afterwards what his intentions were, and he said he just wanted to know if he had a relationship with God, because he wasn't a believer either. And in the same fucking journey, I looked at this waterfall with him, and a perfect sculpture of Jesus Christ's head was etched in that waterfall. And we looked away, or I looked away, looked back, still there. Walked away, still there. Was there all fucking night until the next day I woke up, and then I did not see it.
So the initial guy could have been an angel, you think?
Well, I will finish the story, because now you're interested. So then I come home, and I told you I called Eddie Penny.
Right.
And I told him what had happened to me. This all happened in Sedona. And Eddie started telling me, all right, this is what this is. And my wife's telling me too, like, Shawn, God's always been around you. You just don't fucking take the time to pay attention. And that's why you never see it. But look at your life. Look at what's happened. He's everywhere around you. And so I call Eddie. I'll tell him this. And late at night, down in a fire, and he starts telling me, you've chosen a side now. All these attacks are going to happen. These spiritual attacks are going to start to happen because nobody gives a shit if you're sitting on the sideline. But once you choose a side, the attacks will start to happen. And so he starts telling me about guardian angels and that everybody has a guardian angel. Now, I'm very new at this. Even though I grew up Catholic, I just, I didn't believe. I was a kid. I was forced to do it. I didn't really care. And then lost pretty much everything when I went to war. And the next day, I have a meeting with my IT guy. And I thought it was going to be about IT shit. And he's a very devout Catholic. And I had a call with him at noon. I remember at noon. It was a long call. And it wasn't about IT shit. It was the exact same conversation that Eddie Penny had with me. And those two don't know each other, couldn't be farther apart from their personalities. They would not get along. And he starts telling me, spiritual attacks are going to start to happen. You have guardian angel. They've known you since before you were born. And I'm still like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I drive home for a late lunch. Have lunch with my wife, tell her about these conversations. I'm driving back to work. I look at the odometer or the, gas left to E. It says 444. I look at the clock. It also says 444. And then I think back and I go, this is 4 hours and 44 minutes after that phone call with Adam. So I text one of my guys, who you just met him. And I say, hey, look up what 444 means. I'll be at the office here shortly. Get to the office. He has it pulled up on his laptop. And he goes, 444, what do you think 444 means? 444 means your guardian angel wants to know that they're watching over you.
When I got it, I spent a year in solitary confinement and came out of that beef very bitter. I try not to appear bitter, and I'm not bitter. Like, I understand police come after guys like me, and it's just all part of the game. And I don't hold animosity, but when I came out of that solitary confinement, I'd spent a year there. They were using my mom as a bargaining chip. She was dying of cancer. And they were using my mom as a bargaining chip and to get me to plead out and not fight the case and whatnot. And I came home. She died the next day. She came to see me that day, and then the next day she died. And when my dad died, I had taken his wedding ring, and I'd taken all the diamonds out of it, and I put them in a heart for my mom, because I wanted her to have my dad's diamonds with her. And she was in the hospice, and somebody stole the diamonds off of her. I was so mad. I went to the administrator and said, I don't know what happened, who you got working here. I said, but tell them the smartest thing for them to do is walk on the Ventura pier and throw it off the end of the pier. Because I said, if I ever see anybody with that on, I go, I'm not asking any questions. I'm just reacting. I don't care who has it on. And like I said, I was so mad and so angry. I just, everything was unraveling. The club wasn't the same. It didn't feel the same to me. We were in the midst of a new era with, chasing Osama bin Laden and everything that had happened. And I had a guy come to the house, and he was a minister, and he came there to tell me that I had guardian angels watching me. And he goes, I just want you to know. And he referred to them, it was as some sort of good dogs that protect you, or something to do with the Bible. I didn't quite understand it. And I didn't say no. He was sincere. I mean, I knew he believed in what he was telling me. And when I was in solitary confinement, they quit giving me my mail. They started sending my mail back. They start playing little games with you. And like in the month of December, I had 350 pieces returned to the people that sent the mail to me. And the only thing I had in solitary confinement for a while was a Bible. It took everything away from me, and so I was reading the Bible a lot. But I came home, and there's a lot of things you can't explain in this life, and they're mysterious, and
Like how the fuck you're still sitting here?
exactly. Exactly. When everybody around me there's only a couple of guys left, and they're dead. And I met with somebody that I was very close with, somebody I trusted with my life. Met with him recently, and I know you understand this. Him and I had a conversation about things that happened 30 years ago that I couldn't have that conversation with anybody else but him, because we both understand, and I think we're both wondering what the hell is fucking going on, man. Anyways, so I don't brush off what you say, and what you've just told me. It's interesting, and it attracts my attention, But I don't know. It's like I have this little hard-headedness, and you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like, and it almost goes back to that we were speaking earlier. It's like I don't want to appear weak.
That is the weakness.
Yeah, and it's just like. Like I said, when I had to come to terms with, I had two choices. I could either quit the club, or I could become a hypocrite and do the things that I was condemning other people for doing. And I chose to walk away, But anyways.
I think this is a good place to end it.
I think so.
But before we do.
Okay.
I'm going to give you something to chew on.
All right.
That is the Jesus calling. So for dummies like me that can't understand the Bible, we have to resort to something like that. But what that is, and you can take it, leave it, do whatever you want with it. I will take it. But that is a short little couple of sentences every day. It's not a big lift. It's easy to understand. See if that tugs on you.
I will take it, and I appreciate it. I've enjoyed being here talking to you. I hope I made sense. Some of the subjects are very delicate, and they're very personal, and
it was an awesome interview.
It's been a long journey, my friend.
But George, God has a plan for you, man, and you don't have a lot of time to figure it out, but I hope you do.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And I'm gonna take this, and I am gonna put my nose in it, see what it says.
Best of luck to you.
Appreciate it. Thank
Cheers.
you again.
No matter where you're watching the Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this at all, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.